Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for these issues. So we're continuing our run of classic X-Men. I've taken, we'll be doing Classic X-Men 6 through 11. Now, these are older videos that I've done my very best to edit as I can. I'm a one-man show, so I edit them myself, but, because they're older videos, some of the information that I may share, for example, may not have come to pass. So as you're listening to them, if I say something outrageous or just know that a lot of these were older videos. So, as I mentioned before, we'll be doing Classic X-Men 6 through 11. Classic X-Men is how I read a lot of these stories for the first time. In the 80s, we just didn't have the trade paperbacks that we have now. So, Classic X-Men was an amazing way to get to learn about these stories. Plus, there's the exposition. There's a lot of material that is added for the first time to give more thoughts and more backgrounds. So I hope you enjoy this video. All right, so here we go. First of all, we're going to have this great cover by Arthur Adams. Love his work. P. Craig Russell is the inker of the cover. And then this is the original. This is what Classic X-Men number 6 covers. It Uncanny X-Men, or as it was called back then, just all new, all different X-Men. So, number 98. The Arthur Adams cover looks much better. Dave Cockrum drew this cover. So, part of the reason I prefer the Classic X-Men is there's backup stories as well as supplemental material. And this supplemental material are these 3 pages. These 3 pages were not in the original. And then the backup story by John Bolton was also not. So this kind of gives you a bit better overall picture. So here's a frontispiece again, Arthur Adams and P. Craig Russell. So we start in Christmas, and there is an issue of Marvels that was released after the last 4 issues of Marvels by Alex Ross were done. That was a newer issue that covers this stuff here. And I have already covered Marvels, so feel free to check that out if you'd like. So the X-Men are in Rockefeller Center, celebrating the Christmas time. And this is supposed to be Nick Fury and Contessa something, whatever her name is. So we got Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Banshee, Moira McTaggart, we got Storm, we got Colossus, and this dude here would be Nightcrawler. He's using an image inducer here. So, Jean Grey asked Storm if she likes the snow. She's like, oh, it's pretty, but, in the slopes of Kilimanjaro, the snow is always white. And she's like, you're as bad as Scott. So they're enjoying the fact that they're getting a white Christmas here. And Nightcrawler and Colossus are hitting on these 2 ladies here. So Banshee and Moira McTaggart started dating, and so they're gonna kind of take off on their own. They ask Wolverine what he's gonna do. He's smoking a cigarette. He's like, What about it? You know, I got no use for Christmas. So Cyclops is always in character. So they're heading into Rockefeller Plaza here and talking about Wolverine. He's not sure if he's still going to work out. But then, of course, Havoc and Polaris, who are Alex and Lorna here. Like I said, I have covered the previous issues. So they tried to kill the X-Men, the previous issue. Feel free to check that out. And so Jean reminds me that it's Christmas and it's time to give it a rest and for him to kiss her, which he does. And then this is supposed to be Jack Kirby here and Stan Lee. So Cyclops doesn't kind of want to kiss, but she ends up getting a kiss. And of course here, uh, Jack Kirby says, "Hey Stan, you know who they were? I tell you, they never used to do that when we had the book." And Stan Lee says, Jack, you know these young kids, they got no respect." So Scott, of course, is happy to be with Jean. Tells us how beautiful she is. She asks if she loves him. He says yes, and she says, "I'm glad." But then suddenly, there's a tear in the roof, and of course, Jean sees right away. And this great panel here, as the Sentinels have come, and thus we get the name of the Sentinels have returned here. Great panel here by Cockrum. Rest in peace, Dave Cockrum. He died several years ago from diabetes. So he was the artist who kind of got the X-Men going during the 70s and was the artist before John Byrne took over. So he'll do most of the issues that we that all the way through. He does like 15 issues or so before John Byrne takes over. So the Sentinels tell him that they can negate their powers, and he says maybe they don't, those are the old X-Men's, but now there's new X-Men's, and they think that perhaps she didn't have her telekinetic power the last time that they have fought them, so they were prepared to negate her power. So and Cyclops fires his eye beams at them. Great panel here again from Cockrum. So they take Scott down, they grab Jean Grey and give her a knockout gas. So he is capturing Marvel Girl and leaving here. And so they believe they killed Cyclops. So, but of course, he did not. But he was about to fall, but he hangs on to the radio mast. So, and he wonders how long he'll be able to hang on. So they see the Sentinel kind of fall down and break. Banshee recognizes it and had his costume underneath and explains, what the Sentinels are. And feel free, like I said, the Marvel database wiki page, and you can kind of go in there. All the characters are in there, and you can see their origin, kind of like a who's who. So Banshee tells Moira to go find Colossus and Nightcrawler and warn them. And he's going to go see. And Wolverine, of course, grabs on. He says, "There's a fight brewing. Wolverine's going to be in it." So she changes in her costume. I like how they say human So, all right, so this page is new. In the original, it went from here to then the next page. So, this is a supplemental page here. So, kind of gives a little bit more insight. The Sentinels, of course, see the other mutants, so they neutralize Banshee, and then they're about to grab Wolverine. He takes out his claws, hits him, and then he hits him hard. You can see going through the building, and the water, not tower. I don't know what those things are called. So I find it funny that people would live in the Marvel Comics New York. Goodness gracious, insurance would be through the roof. So, um, like I said, the original did not have that supplemental page, so it went right to here. So, Storm sees Cyclops, and he's not able to hang on, but she catches him and says this is why they added that supplemental page, because they showed this off panel about Banshee and Wolverine. So here they had a way to just show that. So the Sentinels are behind, and they fire at Cyclops. They meant to terminate him, and they didn't. And Storm is about to go one-on-one with the Sentinel, and creating a lot of wind and a big cyclone. So they're all like, it's a hurricane. So, which it was a white Christmas, so you wouldn't get tropical storms during that, but she is able to destroy that Sentinel. And then Cyclops remembers Professor Xavier, who had taken a vacation, and says, oh no, he has to be warned. And so, love the name Dejathorus. So, Professor Xavier is out fishing with Peter Corbeau, I believe. And so, here they're going about all his accomplishments. And I like these zipatones, although I probably wouldn't have used zipatones this like this. I probably would have used just more more dots. It's probably the zipatones I would have chosen to use. So, and so Professor Xavier thinks that he's got a bite here from a fish, but it turns out it is one of the Sentinels. Why would they come from the water? I don't know. For dramatic effect. So, Professor X uses his telepathic powers. A mind blast, which I don't know how that would work on a robot, but it does. It's comic books. Try not to overthink it. So, and off they go on the yacht to try and get away. But then he gets these images that have been tormenting him. I always thought this looks like a fly, but and Corbeau is asking for help, but here comes the Sentinel from underneath, and leaves Corbeau and takes Professor X, and he's here a long ways from land, so he's gonna have to swim. And here we have another new page. So this page was not included in the original. And so uh, Colossus and Nightcrawler um, found those girls that they were hitting on. And of course, here we have a machine. This is mutant contact established. Peter sees a poster of Anya, who we had in the previous issue as the backup story. He's thinking about her, and um, here she says, or Nightcrawler says, can't help but thinking we've met before. And she's like, I can't place the face, and of course he's saying it's a false one generated by the image inducer, and wonders how she would react if she knew who he was. And of course, uh, Moira says, "Hey, we need you." She asks if they're police officers, and they're like, "Oh, not quite." So, and she, of course, knows that it is Nightcrawler, but this is a story for another time. So kind of before we get to it, this is Amanda Sifton, who is actually Jermaine Azardos. So I mean, it's a she does have a love interest with Nightcrawler that will be revealed, but it's years and years and years at another time. So we'll probably not cover. But if you go to that again, if you go to that website with the Marvel database, feel free to check out her origin there. So the surviving X-Men, or the X-Men that weren't captured. This is also a new page. This is supplemental. This is was not in the original. They're kind of getting ready to for the Sentinels, and Cyclops is trying to use Cerebro to see if they're able to detect the X-Men. So of course we also have the Hellfire Club. Again, we did not know who the Hellfire Club was at during this time because they weren't introduced till the Dark Phoenix saga. But here it's kind of showing that they've actually been involved with the X-Men from the very beginning. And if you ever read Ed Piskor's X-Men Grand Design, he does an excellent job showing how the Hellfire Club was involved with the X-Men almost from the beginning. So, X-Men Grand Design by Ed Piskor. So, here they catch the waves of Cerebro, and they said the shields can block them out. And of course, Shaw says that the X-Men are searching for the missing X-Men. He says, "You're a mutant, Shaw. Is there any chance of you being detected?" He's like, "None, Mr. Chairman, because they carry some personal shields to mutant members of the council." So, and it's proceeding according to plan. And if here it just goes to show you that they're familiar with the X-Men will soon be eliminated as a threat to them as part of their plan. Of course, here's some thought balloons that this person does not like. We're not showing him yet, but he's like, "Creditless simpleton, Lang succeed. Not merely those heroes will be destroyed, but you, Sebastian Shaw, and your fellow mutants as well." So this person does not like mutants either. So, and then this is where the original picked up then. So here Stephen Lang has Banshee, Wolverine, Jean Grey, and Professor Xavier here. He's told that there's a solar radiation storm and that they're going to have to shut down the Sentinels for the time being. And Lang says, we'll make do with the mutants that we have now. Wolverine is not giving any readings, which is leading into that mysterious, during this time, nobody knew anything about Wolverine. They're not even sure if he's a mutant, but the Sentinels said he is for sure. You can see Wolverine is getting a little upset here. And of course, Jean Grey here basically calls him a Nazi. He says he's no Nazi. He's a man doing his duty. he's going to kill mutants to save humanity. It goes back to that whole principle that mutants were created for Stan Lee to do kind of his civil rights um, thing. I always said, why not make more black characters? But hey, the X-Men. Um, so the X-Men represents um, uh, discriminated people groups, blacks during that time, and whatever would be. But it just became its own, like, the hatred, that it just doesn't make too much sense in the current modern Marvel thing. They're just used as this escape. So, all right, so he slaps Jean Grey, and Wolverine breaks out. You can see him with taking out the claws, and so he dispatches everyone, and Stephen Lang is running away and tells the Sentinel to go get him. And alive if he can, dead if he must. So Wolverine, of course, jumps toward the Sentinel and shreds him to pieces, and everybody's escaping. So they put on their costumes, and Jean Grey is, of course, she's got that dress on, and she's gonna try to tear it. Wolverine just says, no problem, I can do that. He tears the whole thing, and of course now she's got a bit of a mini dress, and of course he's like, anytime, Red. And so they're saying, what about Professor X? Yeah, can't leave him there. Wolverine's like, we can't carry him. He's, if we get him, none of us can get out. And she's like, we find a way. And here comes another Sentinel. Banshee uses his sonic scream on him. These Sentinels, man, for as expensive as they are, they certainly go down quickly. So the three take off running. Now they have a bunch of Sentinels in there. And here come all the X-Men fighting all the Sentinels, knocking them down. This one grabs Wolverine. Marvel Girl. Oh, I keep calling her Marvel Girl. Jean Grey, she is just using her name during this time, hits her with her telekinetic blast. He drops Wolverine. Banshee gets her, and he grabs Wolverine. They're gonna bust out, and he's using a sonic scream, but then the sonic scream stops. So they think they are outside, and they are, but it's a little bit different. So Nightcrawler goes to Cyclops, asks if there's anything. He's like, nope, there's nothing. So it's been 4 days, and Nightcrawler tells him, you're working yourself too hard, and suddenly they see a intruder, and he's gonna go check it out, but already you can see here, bamf, and Nightcrawler has already teleported, and it turns out it's Peter Corbeau, who's cold here. First he had to swim, and then he had to go all the way to upstate New York. So he's telling Corbeau that there's no sign of the X-Men. They appear to be dead, and they can't accept it. And Corbeau makes the connection to the solar flares that the Sentinels were talking before, and realizes that they're not on Earth, and here the X-Men are in outer space, and no suit, no nothing, so there's no air. So and we get it to be continued. Now, because this is classic X-Men, we do have a backup story. So we'll get to that in a minute here. Not sure what to do about all the blacks that were spotted here. Uh, I don't know. Do you like it? Do you guys like it? I don't know what to think of all these blacks here, but oh well. So, we have a wordless backup story here, drawn by John Bolton, written by Chris Claremont with Jean Grey. This is before we get to the night. So this is the day of so it's called A Love Story. And this is the same, so the Sentinel story was that night. This is during the day. She's using her telekinetic to hold the bags while she closes the door, and then uses her telekinetics to bring them up, and then put things away. When I draw, I do my noses the way he does, very minimal approach. Here's kind of a little bit of mutants and telekinetics and telepathy. So, she's got a grandfather clock. So, she's going to go take a shower or a bath. And again, the alarm clock rings. And she gets off the bath with her roommate Misty. So she's kind of leaves her a note. As agreed, Jeannie, she's gone for the weekend. Go for broke. Love your roommate Misty. Cyclops phone. He'll pick you up by 7:30. Be ready. Be rude. Be happy. So, and then she grabs the notebook. And or it's a planner, and of course she's got Scott circled, and the picture uses her powers to get a record player and creates a with her powers, like if Cyclops was there or something, and then holds them. The alarm clock goes again, or not the. I keep saying alarm clock, but you know what I mean. The grandfather clock. So, kind of gets her back in. The clothes fall. She's gonna go upstairs, and she's got a poster for the Phoenix and the carpet. And she's gonna sit on the side of the bed. These are her parents. She puts the pictures away. And she's thinking and contemplating. So she's going to open the closet here. That's what these things are. And she's going to try out, see what works. Of course, we know she picks this one because that's the one that was in the story. So she needs to get ready. Again, I do this nose thing, just boop. Very minimalist approach. And when the doorbell rings, here's Cyclops, dressed all spiffy, and Jean Grey. And he brings her a rose. They have a kiss. And she grabs her coat. And off they go. To fight Sentinels that they don't know. But we get like something here. Kaboom. And we sort of don't know who this is, but we are implied that the Phoenix, because this is kind of how it ends here. This is the last panel. So, and the Phoenix has sort of had its eye on Jean Grey. So we are assuming that this is Phoenix here. And then, of course, this is what the back cover looked like. So, today we are going to be looking at Classic X-Men number 7. It is definitely a Friday, as Friday is X-Men Day. So, great cover by Arthur Adams. I'm choosing to do the classic X-Men run because when we get into the Phoenix saga, the Dark Phoenix saga, there's a lot of stuff that happens on classic X-Men as when Chris Claremont went back and rewrote some things and added some stuff that I just thought it would be impertinent to have. So, Classic X-Men number 7 reprints X-Men number 99 from 1976. So it's essentially about 10 years previously when Classic X-Men was released. Cover here is by Dave Cockrum. So, Classic X-Men contained a frontispiece. Chris Claremont, of course, was the writer. He wrote everything, including the new pages. So, the new pages would have been pages 3, 9, and 17. And then there was a back material, which was done by John Bolton. There's also a back cover that we'll get to. So, the John Bolton is all new. And it's normally a brand new sort of short story, about 8 pages. And then the Dave Cockrum stuff here would be what was in the original issues. And then Chris Claremont also wrote all the supplemental material. So this frontispiece is, of course, by Arthur Adams, who makes it to about issue. P. Craig Russell is the inker on these on the cover in the frontispiece. Art Adams made it to about 15 issues, and then 15, 16 issues, I believe, and then ended up bowing out. So here is we pick up exactly where we left off. So I have been covering the X-Men from the beginning of Chris Claremont's run. Well, from Giant Size X-Men number 1, and then Chris Claremont's run. So, as you can see, they're no longer inside that base, and they're actually in outer space. So, we're going to do things a little different. I'm kind of just going to read along. Before I was just kind of narrating, but I just kind of miss a lot when I'm doing that. So, it kind of gives you a little bit of exposition here. So, a minute ago, they had made it. A minute ago, they were smashing their way to freedom. Banshee sonic scream tearing the Sentinels apart like they'd been built of tissue paper instead of steel. If you can tell, Tom Orzechowski is not the letterer yet for the original. He will eventually come. So, a minute ago, it had been so beautiful. Stephen Lang, the mastermind behind Project Armageddon, had thought them helpless. But Banshee, Wolverine, and Jean Grey had proven him wrong. They were busting out of his prison, and nothing between heaven and hell was going to stop them. So, but that was a minute ago. So, I like it. Things have changed. So here come the Sentinels. They're saying that our heroes have breached the primary hull of the orbital platform, and so they're going to go retrieve the X-Men. So this stuff here on this panel is happening in outer space, and then the stuff in this side is happening on Earth. So I'm going to go just kind of, I don't know, maybe I'll just read it in order anyway. So, Cyclops here, he's already been told that they weren't on Earth, and asks how he can be sure. And he says he's not, but that's where Cerebro comes in. In addition to being a mutant detecting scanner system, it's also a supercomputer. He is referring to Cerebro here. The Sentinel says it is imperative that rescue be effected before the mutant life functions terminate. So I like how Cockrum kind of did in this portion here, kind of like Um, as if you could see all this from Earth, but I've hooked it into the National Security Agency Prime Data Bank. I never dreamed Xavier had that kind of clearance. Corbeau is talking here. Anyway, all that's left is for us to ask the right question. So then back in space here. Use atmospheres to provide mutants with a temporary environment. So they're encasing them so that they can get some air. You see, Cyclops, according to your record, Sentinels are composed of special alloys, unique circuits, elemental strategic materials. NSA will have record of those. Sentinel R71 to main mission rescue operation completed. It seems silly that the robots are talking, but I understand that it's for the reader here. But, comic books, I sometimes gripe on some of the silliness of it, but that is what I love about comic books. It's sometimes just kind of funny when you see it and you read it out loud. You don't so much think of it when you're reading it, but when you're kind of reading it out loud, you go, well, that's kind of silly. Why was a robot speaking like that? But anyway, preliminary sensor scans of prisoner indicates line functions operational at minimum support levels, all suffering from extreme exposure. So then, back on Earth. By asking specific questions, we can discover the origin of those elements. Their designation, even a negative response, will tell us something. Eventually, with patience and a lot of luck. And then back over here. In short, consider yourselves lucky to be alive, but I trust you've learned your lesson. There's no escape from here. Not now, not ever. And then back on Earth. We get the answers I expected and feared. Oh my lord, the Sentinels are staging from an orbital platform. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s orbital platform. So this here is new. This would not have been included in the original. So we're at the Kennedy Space Center. So this guy says, first we get this blasted emergency hurry up launch Christmas last week. Now the whole mission's probably going to be scrubbed because of lousy weather. This friggin' stinking pea soup fog. And where's Corbeau? This crew. Oh, and his crew. They're overdue at the launch facility. And so, sorry to be late, Jordan. Got held up by the fog. And so this guy's like, you and blaming near everyone else, Dr. Corbeau. You and blame? I don't know. Everything's ready inside. So, he's carrying the X-Men. This is to show us how kind of they got there. So, into pressure suits, X-Men, quick as you can. The staff mustn't see you in costumes. Storm says, I still don't understand why we must hide our identities and skulk through the shadows like criminals. Too many mutants too many people, Storm, consider mutants, especially us X-Men, precisely that. And we haven't time to explain ourselves. You can roll back the fog you summoned. Wolverine's in outer space, but this is Wolverine here, so a little error that I don't think anybody noticed. So again, you can roll back the fog you summoned to cover our arrival. She casts her thoughts to the winds, and they respond by sweeping the earthbound clouds out to sea. So, now we're back to the original here. So, it's supposed to be like a Walter Cronkite character here. Good evening. Here now the news. A midnight launch is imminent at Cape Canaveral, where the StarCorps project shuttle, piloted by Project Director Dr. Peter Corbeau, is set to lift off as scheduled, despite unusually heavy and hazardous solar activity. And then Geraldo. This must be Geraldo Rivera, even back then. So, well, Roger, a widespread epidemic of anti-mutant hysteria has swept the country following the Christmas Eve reappearance of the notorious mutant hunting Sentinels. So, over the weekend, the Long Island home of federal judge Robert Chalmers, noted jurist and outspoken foe of the anti-mutant movement, was firebombed. Fortunately, no one was home. However, in light of recent and then sorry to interrupt, Geraldo, but we have an update on the StarCore shuttle launch. As you can see, the team of 4 men and a woman is now boarding the launch vehicle. They're to there to augment StarCore's international crew. International, interracial, intersexual. Something for everyone. This launch was scheduled with unusual speed by StarCore, presumably to beat out the increasingly deadly solar radiation storms. Unfortunately, that speed has left us with no further information on the flight crew. In any event, we'll be covering their launch in details after the newscast. Melba? So, that previous page was kind of done to kind of explain more of how the X-Men got into this shuttle here. So, Storm is relieved to get the helmet off because she suffers from claustrophobia, which Claremont will ultimately expand on here. Nightcrawler here, Dr. Kerbu, won't your real crew be upset that we have taken their place? He says that they are the real crew. This was all for show, a very elaborate and expensive deception. So, Nightcrawler then says, which will get you into a great deal of trouble when it's discovered you are a good friend. Don't you think, Her Doctor? Peter, why don't you remove your helmet? Peter. Speaking of Colossus. So, T minus 10 minutes and counting, and so they begin the preparations. And he's like, Peter, are you? And then he transforms into Colossus. He's like, God's below. And he says, Mikhail. He says, what is it, my friend? What's the matter? And he says, nothing, Kurt. I didn't mean to. I was afraid, Kurt, afraid. I sit here inside a rocket, and all I can think of is my brother Mikhail, a test pilot, one of Russia's first cosmonauts. Mikhail dying, my friend burning to death. This was later expanded after Claremont left, in which his brother turns out is alive, but it's not revealed for like 20 years later. So this might be the longest plot thread ever, and Claremont didn't even do it. Somebody else did. So Colossus continues. We were close, Mikhail and I. We were all we had. And ever since that day, Corboot says, I understand, Colossus. I remember the Apollo first fire, the friends I lost that day. And so, T minus 1 minute, all systems go. So, love the sideburns here. 5 seconds, and here I go again, away from Mother Earth and into the deadliest environment known to man. So what I feel like I'm going home. And Cyclops, we've come so far, Jean and I, come through so much. Oh Lord, I can't lose her now. Storm, and as it's counting down, sorry, 5, 4, 3. Be calm, child of the wind. Above all else, be calm. Your friends need you. The power of Colossus, here it means nothing. I'm helpless. I wonder if this is how Mikhail felt before. And then 1, Nightcrawler here. Poor Colossus. He looks terrified. Can't he see how magnificent this adventure is? Oh, if my comrades in can't read French. Or, sorry, German, my bad. Could only see me now. That would show them. So, the rocket takes off. So, StarCore, this is Capcom at T plus 2 minutes. You're on track. On SCED, all telemetry reading normal. In other words, a beautiful flight. I thought I said that, Corbo. So, this looks like Star Trek uniforms here. Beautiful for the moment, perhaps. But let's shift our attention to another solar orbit. To the vast UN-sponsored research station known as StarCore 1. And we'll hear a slightly different tale. Hillary, that sun flare, my instruments are going off their scales. Then recalibrate, Colonel, and fast. The way the sun's acting up, we're working with no margin for error. Come on, Dimitri. What's holding up those solar forecasts? They're just coming through now, and they are very bad, worse than we anticipated. So, um, here comes the shuttle, and it's detaching. So, Nightcrawler talks to Colossus, says, "Peter, we are in space and we're still alive. Are you disappointed, my friend?" And he's like, "Please, Kurt, no jokes. I'm in no mood. I feel strange. I almost wish I was dead." So you can see he's looks like he's ready to throw up. Um, Corbeau says, "A mild form of space sickness, Colossus. Your body is reacting and adapting to zero gravity. Nothing to worry about. Meantime, pipe down, the lot of you. I've got to get a priority mess. Sorry, I've got a priority message coming through from Starcore." So, now we're shifting, and you can see here it's raining. So we're, it says here, um, about a half hour away from the Dublin, um, and this guy's going into the post office. It says here, a nice place to live or die. So when he opens the door, this guy's, "Will ye be shutting the door, you flaming idiot?" "There's a winter gale blowing, or haven't ye noticed?" He apologizes. "My name is Flaherty. I'm a solicitor. This letter is for a client of mine in America. It's imperative it get to him without delay." So, it's for Sean Cassidy, who's the Banshee. So, without delay, you understand? And this guy, you can see him. "I'll be knowing how to do me own job. Thank you very much. I've been doing it for 40 years. Now, for the last time, close that flaming door." So, all right. So he says, "Well, my job's done. I'm glad I am, and glad I am it is." So, this person here, we can see in the shadow, "A long way from County Mayo, aren't you, Mr. Flaherty?" He says, "You." Now, we can recognize him, but I won't spoil it if you haven't read this 50-year-old comic book, but it's it will be revealed at another time, sort of what's happening. But if you've read X-Men for a long time, you should be able to recognize this. So, so he says, "You're too late. Your cousin's been warned, and he'll stop your mad plans." And he fires at the poor guy. "Poor foolish lawyer Flaherty. My cousin could sooner stop the morning sun from rising. Aye, cousin Sean, you'll stop Black Tom, won't ye? Or at least you'll die trying." So, I gave you the name there. And so now we have another new panel here. Manhattan, a most notorious address on the borough's most fashionable streets. It is home to the Hellfire Club, whose members number among the richest, most powerful people on Earth, a special few of whom comprise the Council of the Chosen. So, Stephen Lang is talking here. "There are a few mutants more powerful than the X-Men, and their outcast status makes them ideal subjects for our experiments. Few are likely to care about their disappearance, and fewer still will come to their aid. Our aim is to isolate their genetic X factor that differentiates mutants from baseline humans, and ultimately reproduce it at will, creating whatever powers we require in anyone we choose." So, he says, "You have but 3 prisoners, Lang. Suppose their teammates attempt a rescue. They have to find them first, Shaw, which is doubtful," says one. So, we can see here that it's Sebastian Shaw, the Black Queen, and I don't know who this is. Should they succeed, Lang is more than capable of dealing with them. Ned. Okay. I'm not so certain, Ned. The man is too cocky. There's something about him I don't trust. Your privilege, but you, Sebastian, are a probationary member of council and club. I'm a chairman of both. Lang has performed superlative. I've no more reason to doubt his competence than your loyalty. And so he says, poor old Top, if you only knew the truth. Lang's true purpose is the elimination of that mongrel subspecies to which you, Sebastian, belong, beginning with the XMen and followed by you. Enjoy this Christmas season, old Top. It will be your last. So, we'll be dealing with this in the classic X-Men. We won't be dealing with this in the regular X-Men. So that was just kind of stuff. Chris Claremont's just kind of adding stuff because these issues were shorter back then. So, all right. So now we're in outer space here, and the shuttle's coming in. What's that on the vid screen, says Stephen Lang. Corbeau says, this is Starcore Eagle 1. Solar radiation levels are moving into dangerous levels. We're requesting sanctuary. This is Stephen Lang speaking. We're a top secret U.S. government installation, Corbeau, and you have foreign personnel on board. Sanctuary denied. He says, Dr. Lang, the mutant detector is going crazy. The ship out there must be crammed with muties. And so they're sending more Sentinels here. Says, heads up, troops. We've been rumbled. Bogies at 12 o'clock high and coming fast. Everyone into full pressure suits on the double. So, what about Colossus? He has no pressure suits. If we're hit, he won't stand a chance. Then we just better pray we don't get hit. So he evades the first one, but doesn't make it to the other one. They open up the hull, and some shrapnel cut through, and Storm goes out. And so he actually shouldn't be able to speak, but that's okay. Oh, that's right. They're inside the suit, but Peter's suffocating here. So, Gerbo, Colossus is suffocating. We've no time for subtlety, man. Get us inside that station, and get us inside now. So, they crash through. Okay, Cyclops, but just bear one thing in mind. We smash this baby up, and we don't go home. Got that? So here goes nothing. Alert, alert. Target vehicle making an unauthorized entry into the Armageddon command base. These units unable to prevent mutant incursion into main security zone. So the ship goes through, and now it's going after Storm. And so Storm says, like, Sentinel coming straight for me, and I am stuck here as helpless as an antelope in a lion's snare. Unless I am mistress of the wind and storm, if I can generate lightning bolts even in this vacuum. So the Sentinel's shooting at her, or blasting at her. A slim hope. First, I must use my backpack maneuvering thruster to evade the Sentinel's attack. And so she actually ends up using a little bit of her power here. So she's very strong and shoots at the Sentinel. And you can see he goes away, or she shoos him away. So his screams, the fear in it, the Sentinel almost sounded human. That is correct. I don't. I'm like, okay. Again, it's comic books. In this, is this how you honor your parents' memory, Ororo? By breaking the oath you swore so long ago that you would never take another's life, and yet sooner or later your duty as an X-Men will require to do this, that. Perhaps then it would be better if you cease being an X-Men. Again, it's a robot, so. Alright, so inside the Sentinels and the X-Men are fighting. So he uses gas on Cyclops here. Main God, Colossus is fighting like a man berserk. Like a man fighting for the woman he loves. But pay attention to the job at hand, Nightcrawler. The Sentinel has captured Cyclops. And again, he's gassing him with anesthetic gas. So, prisoner for this instant, Sentinel, but you have Nightcrawler's pledge that you will not hold Cyclops for long. And he destroys the head of the Sentinel. You know, these Sentinels are not very sturdy. So, Cyclops says, "Thanks for the assist, Nightcrawler. I couldn't have held my breath much longer. But you're not in a circus anymore, mister. That kind of flamboyance can cost us if you're not careful. I have been a showman all my life. Watch out for this other Tin Frankenstein, my friend. It is in my blood, and I'm not about to change for anyone but you. Or I'm not about to change for anyone, you or anyone." So, Colossus tells Nightcrawler to move, that to move quickly. That move worked in the danger room. So, Nightcrawler says, "Excellent. If our fearless leader thought my last move was flamboyant, wait till he sees this one." And he jumps another circus and hits the Sentinel in the head, breaking it. Again, they're not very sturdy. I wonder how much they cost. All right, so they dispatched the last one. And Cyclops says it was a bit too easy. He says, "You call this easy? Compared to the trash Sentinels, this model's a walking joke." Which beggars the question, what's the real threat in all of this? I have a feeling that the sooner we find Jean and the others, the sooner we'll know. And Cyclops says, "Jean Grey and the others, what about Storm? She's adrift out there. She could be hurt." And Cyclops says, "Back off, Colossus. I know how you feel." He says, "You know nothing. She is our friend, our comrade in battle. She could be dead, and you act as if you do not even care. Well, Colossus cares." And off panel, "You do me great honor, my friend, and I am grateful." And Storm's alive, and Colossus picks her up. He's so happy. I've been, it says here, "I've always been very difficult to kill, young one, but I must admit I find the Sentinels easier to survive than your bear hugs." "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just glad. We're all glad to see you." And so suddenly, Jean Grey, using her telepathy, she calls Cyclops, says, "Scott," and he's like, "Images inside my head. I can't. Jean, help us. Scott, time is running out for the professor and me. Can barely hold contact. Banshee and Wolverine are on B deck detention cells. Professor X are in the main mission. But hurry, Scott. Stephen Lang is coming. He means to murder us." So, alright, so Cyclops barks out some orders, says, "Colossus, Storm, Nightcrawler, follow the route signs to the B deck. You'll find Wolverine and Banshee there. Break them free and then join me in the main mission. Move it, people. We've no time to waste." "But Cyclops, that will leave you on your own. Suppose there are more Sentinels." Cyclops kind of barks back. "Then I'll handle them, Storm. Right now, I've given you an order. Obey it. As for Stephen Lang, so-called head honcho of this ball of wax, he's mine, X-Men. Mine alone." You can see he's very angry here. So this is the original panel from the page. And Cyclops is running here. So I'll say this for the last time, people. Get out of here. You come with me, Dr. Corbeau. Can't have you running into a stray Sentinel in the dark. Corbeau says, "Oh, yes, of course. Look, Cyclops, don't you think you were a little rough on them? But I guess you've got more important things in your mind." So then these panels are all new. Cyclops doesn't have time to answer, it says here. This guy here says, "Shrimp's giving us the eye. If looks could kill, gents, but neither of those muties." So this is Banshee and Wolverine here. "Is gonna trouble us much longer. Their fancy powers can't save them now. Jake, maybe you shouldn't make fun. You ain't got the stomach for this, Billy. Take a hike." Suddenly, Nightcrawler shows up. "Brave men facing bound captives. Let's see how well you fare against free X-Men." As he punches them, here comes Storm. A hurricane gust of wind should take the fight out of these two. Leave Blumpo for me, darling. You got a gun, bub? Go for it. Take your best shot as he gets Wolverine out. And then this panel is new, but then we go to the other ones. Wolverine pops his claws. Then it's my turn. A moment later, the Techno's body drops in a dead faint. So, the original panel went from here to here, but Claremont was able to break this down nicely. So, sorry about that. I thought I had to cough. So, all right. This part should have actually been. This part here deals with the previous part, but it doesn't look like they edited this part out. So, all right. I see the trash notes I used to reconstruct the Sentinels were incomplete. These Sentinels are second rate. Not that it matters. I have all the data I need from you mutants, which makes you expendable. Suddenly, this door is busted open. Your friends may have taken this station, Miss Gray, but I'm afraid I won't leave you alive to share their victory. My God. And so Cyclops hits him with his eye blast. She'll be a lot more alive than you, scum. Free Jean and the Professor, Corbeau. I'll deal with Mr. Lang personally. He throws him. How does it feel, you animal, facing someone one-on-one, someone who can fight back? Answer me, Lang. Answer me. And he's punching him. Cyclops, for pity's sake, stop. You're killing him. And Cyclops still yelling, answer me. So, suddenly, Scott, behind you, there's someone in the next room. What is it, Jean? Another Sentinel? And he's hit. Not quite. And so there's someone here. Oh no, it can't be you. Please don't let it be you. But it is, Miss Gray, the ultimate irony. The ultimate undefeatable enemy. This is the heart of Project Armageddon, my dear. Not those rather pathetic Sentinels, though I admit I had hopes for them. Resistance, as they say, is futile. Your mental powers are being neutralized by a mind not unlike your own. And so the X-Men are running here. Take her away, my pets. Prepare her. Which, of course, means that you won't be able to warn your fellow X-Men until it's too late. Because our final act is about to begin. And Colossus here. Banshee, all of you, look. I'm looking, but I'm far piece from believing. This is no joke. It must be a joke or a nightmare. If it is, fella, then the joke's on us. And it's kind of joke the X-Men can do without, just like we can do without these imposters. Imposters? No, not so, Cyclops. We are the X-Men. Like heck you are, lady. So they have the original X-Men here. Agreed, Iceman. And these imposters are the deadliest foes you have ever fought. So attack my X-Men. Show them the same mercy they would show you. Attack these imposters and kill them. Kill them all. So this sets us up for X-Men 100, which will be the next X-Men we'll cover. Our catalysmic 100th issue, A Tale of Triumph and Tragedy, X-Men versus X-Men till the death. But again, this is classic X-Men, so we have another tale. So our backup tale is called Out with the Old, and you can see Tom Orzechowski's beautiful lettering. Tom Orzechowski is one of my two favorite letterers, John Workman being the other ones. I can't pick a favorite. I love them both. They're both so different. They're so exquisite lettering. So, regardless. So here comes our backup tale. So, Christmas is past. The old year nearly done. And in celebration, New York's infamous Hellfire Club presents its annual gala. There is no more exclusive establishment in the world, and yet no more egalitarian Anyone can belong, provided he or she is wealthy beyond almost all measures. Within these walls, these most powerful of people are free from constant cloying constraints of society and custom, in an atmosphere that harkens to an earlier, rougher age. There are few rules and fewer limitations. All things are possible, and virtually nothing is forbidden. So, we have here, um, of course, we know Sebastian Shaw here. So, um, so this woman here, her name is Lourdes, and she tells Sebastian, "You are a fool to trust the White King." And Sebastian looks on. "Edward Buckman is the club's president, my lady, my patron and my friend." And she says, "False friend, a lying patron. He is human. We are mutants. Can you not see how much he hates us?" So Sebastian kind of cuts her off. "Peace, Lourdes. We'll discuss this later." And so, "Have you met my White Queen, Sebastian? Paris Seville." Um, and Sebastian says, "Your servant, ma'am. May I in turn present Lourdes Chantel." So this is, by the way, the gentleman that was in previous that was plotting his death. So this is why I said this just happens for this. This doesn't continue in the main X-Men. So Charmed, Buckingham says, "You'll make a fitting Black King, old top. You really do look the part." "Kind words, Edward, but no amount of finery or education will smooth my rough edges. You were born into wealth. I forged mine from nothing." And so, "The American dream, old top. Horatio Alger would be proud. By the way, the latest reports from Stephen Lang are everything we hoped and more. Project Armageddon looks to be a complete success. It wouldn't have been possible without you, Sebastian. Rest assured, the Council of the Chosen will not let such stalwart service go unrewarded. Now, if you'll excuse me, I promised my queen this waltz." So, I love John Bolton's pencils. So elegant. He fits so well with these backup stories. So, all right. So the two of them look on. So Lourdes says, "The charm of a stalking cobra with fangs to match. The X-Men always defended. The X-Men have always defended mutant kind. Yet Buckman wishes them dead." So Sebastian says, "Rubbish. Our aim is to isolate this genetic X factor that creates enhanced power beings like ourselves so we can properly exploit it in the marketplace. The X-Men are simply the most suitable guinea pigs." "Hold fast to your fantasy, querido," she says. "Enough. Tessa, Edward Buckman's behavior, observation, and analysis, please." So Tessa is a character that will evolve much later. Much later. But for now, she's like an analyst. So she says, "The White King's solicitude may indicate a genuine regard, Shaw. Alternately, it is a classic military strategy to disarm one foe by pretending friendship prior to an attack." So he says, "That isn't helpful, woman. And so it is the best I can do without additional data." So Sebastian is going out. "You are both determined to drive me mad. Much of what I am I owed to Ned. And yet, Emma, can you hear my thought?" He's talking about the White Queen. "Always, Sebastian, even from the farthest reaches of the world." "Hades, are all my women determined to draw their pint of blood tonight?" And so he thinks Lourdes is worried. 100 miles eastward beyond East Hampton. That is her nature, but in this instance she may have a good reason. How is our guest, Emma? So she says, Colonel Rosie is alive. With proper care, he will recover. I have telepathically scanned his memories. His aircraft was attacked by Sentinels while en route to Washington after Rosie's meeting with Stephen Lang. Project Armageddon was originally proposed as a means of enhancing the Hellfire Club's wealth and power. The rationale being that whosoever controls mutant kinds will also control the world. But Rosie discovered the true purpose: to bring about the total eradication of Homo sapiens superior, and the men responsible are Stephen Lang and Edward Buckman. And so, the Black King is angry. Ned, you lied to me. I trusted you. I believed in you. I let my need for respect and acceptance cloud my instinct for survival. How you must have laughed. So the reason I'm covering classic X-Men is these backup stories and the extra stuff that Chris Claremont puts in here. So I just thought that it would, when we get to the Dark Phoenix saga, I think it will make more sense as we go through classic X-Men versus regular X-Men. So contact established with mutant target Codifaxed Emma Frost. Files indicate scanning confirms target's mutant abilities are psionic in nature. Minimal threat to this unit. And suddenly she screams, a Sentinel. Initiating termination program. And she screams at Shaw. And so here comes the Black King. One of Lang's robots is attacking my beach house. Emma and Harry Leland haven't a prayer against it on their own. Lourdes, teleport us there at once. So, she's Lourdes says, Sebastian, I've never carried so many people such a distance. I don't know if I can. And he grabs her by the neck. He says, I won't be refused, woman. Do as you're told. And so, in the blink of an eye, they travel from Manhattan to their destination. So, you can see Lourdes is collapsing. Shaw, thank heaven. Emma's in the next room. I don't know what happened to her. Tessa, tend to Lourdes. I'll deal with this metal monster. An admirable ambition, dear boy. Better you than me, says Leland. So, his power will be clear at a much as we go through this and all that stuff. So, a brilliant lawyer may be Harry, but considerably less than a man. And so, the Sentinels throwing nerve gas at them. Well, to flatten the remaining walls so the wind can blow the gas away before it can do us any harm. A good punch. The harder I strike anything, the stronger I get. He basically is able to use kinetic energy to enhance his power. As I mentioned in the beginning, I've included a link to the Marvel database for this issue. Click on any of the character names in there and it'll give you their powers, their history, everything you ever need to know. So, a few more like it and I'll be unbeat up. What? And so, he's grabbed here. Shaw. And Tessa says, Lourdes, stay back. You're still too weak. I don't care, Tessa. I won't let him be harmed. So Tessa grabs him and teleports him. You can see the thing here kind of dissipates. And she reappears there. But the Sentinel throws in this arrow-looking thing and goes through her. And Harry's like, Lourdes, child, no, 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 no. Feel my power, murderer. I'm the murderer. If only I've acted sooner with a little courage, he says. And he uses his, he can, basically here, he tells you here, he controls mass. By concentration alone, I can increase yours to the point where you'll sink like stone to the core of the earth. So down goes the Sentinel. Now, robot, you're where I can reach you. And Sean punches it. And she's like, Harry, Sentinel, resisting so much strain, my heart pounding so hard. Hurts, I won't give up. I'm all right, Emma. Glad to see you are too. Well constructed, robot. He hits him again. Omnium steel frame. Chobham armor. Shock repressors. Fast-acting damage control and system repairs. But as good as you are, you're only a machine. As Shaw keeps punching it. And this man will always prove to be your better. I only wish the victory were worth the price. Forgive me, Lourdes, for bringing you to this. Forgive you, Sebastian, anything, always, she says. Tessa's like how much she loves him, how little he realized. Isn't there anything we can do? And Emma says, my psi powers are neutralizing her neural receptors, so she's in no pain beyond that. And so Lourdes says, I wish I could see the sun again, stroll las Ramblas, at home in Barcelona. Pray a last time in the Sagrada Familia. Oh, Sebastian, why does Buckman hate us? And they kiss before she dies. Fear of what we are and what we represent. Now give him cause. So before I go to the next page, I want to explain to you where the X-Men were at this time. So Chris Claremont had just wrapped up the Mutant Massacre saga, and the X-Men he did a couple of stories between Storm, kind of some solo Storm stories, and then the X-Men without Wolverine, without Storm, Longshot had joined the team, and so forth. I think Chris Claremont was at the after John Byrne had left, the X-Men were searching for themselves. Dave Cockrum had come back, but I have to tell you people, Dave Cockrum, as good as he was, rest in peace, Dave Cockrum. John Byrne was better. So to go from Byrne back to Cockrum, it seemed like a step back. Now, the X-Men did eventually find their footing and got better again. But Claremont, he really, really cemented himself during the mid-'80s with the Mutant Massacre saga. And it kind of served him well for a few more years. Then, of course, the downhill started again, but then picked up when Jim Lee took over. And then, sadly, he ended up leaving the X-Men after that. But this story is quite good, I think. And it really showed, I think, Claremont's best writing, or some of his best writing. It's really hard because he's written a lot of good stuff, but this short story here is extremely well done. So, all right. So, Midnight, the Council of the Chosen, minus, of course, Sebastian Shaw, gathers for a special meeting. Welcome all. I've the very best of news. Even as I speak, the mutant present among us and the threat it represents to humanity as much as the Hellfire Club. Sir, Mr. Buckman, what is being dealt with? He fires at the soldier, and permanently as he fires at everybody here, killing them all. Ned, for pity's sake, and then he shoots his wife, and he's like, wait, this is insane. What have I done? What am I doing? What comes naturally, old top, slaughtering those who trust you the most. And he goes, he recognizes Shaw. You should be dead. Right idea. Wrong man. I disconnected the telepathics inhibitors around the chamber. My lady Emma holds power now, holds you completely in thrall. You are her puppet, her slightest whim at your absolute command. And Your every thought hurts for the taking. May I? You won't need it anymore as he grabs the weapon. I wasn't your enemy, Ned, until you made me one. Shaw, please. The only thing a man truly possesses is his word. You gave me yours. I thought that meant something, and he snaps his neck and destroys the gun. The king is dead, and his council with him. Lourdes was worth more than the lot of them, and more. And in their place, and her memory, shall rise the Lord's Cardinal. No longer will mutants be victims, but rulers. First the Hellfire Club, and then the world. So, and next, of course, the Phoenix. So, and then the last thing is the back cover by John Bolton. So we are going to be looking at classic X-Men number 8 from 1987, which reprints X-Men 100, written by Chris Claremont and drawn by Dave Cockrum. Of course, I use the classic X-Men because it gives you an extra stuff. And I think it's very important to the overall story. So we start with this beautiful cover by Arthur Adams of the X-Men. The old X-Men fighting the new X-Men. Of course, here's the cover to the original X-Men 100. I like both. Let me know in the comments what you prefer, but I like both covers. I think they're both amazing. So, Chris Claremont is the writer of everything. Dave Cockrum, these are the ones in the original 1 through 100. This James Sherman and John Bolton do all the supplemental material that was added by Claremont. And then Dave Cockrum inked his own work, and this Sam Granger was James Sherman's inker, and then John Bolton inks himself. So this is a great front piece also by Arthur Adams. Beautiful, beautiful work. I absolutely think this piece is amazing. So I was so impressed. So when this issue came out, I probably was about 12 years old. So I just thought it was the coolest thing I had seen at that time. Part of the reason that I don't necessarily am so in love with, say, Jack Kirby is because I grew up in the era of Arthur Adams and John Byrne, Walt Simonson, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane. So those are the artists that to me are what Jack Kirby would be to people perhaps older than me. So I was born in 1974, so I'm 50 as of now. So people that are even older than me, just that have, and I can appreciate, and this isn't going to turn into a Jack Kirby bashing thing. I can appreciate Jack Kirby. Just to me, his art doesn't compare to what some of these guys do. So, all right, so we're going to pick up right where we left off. By the way, Tom Orzechowski is still not the letterer of the X-Men. He does eventually get there, but as of now, he is not the letterer. And as always, Chris Claremont provides a lot of words in his comic books. So the Angel goes and says, "You heard Professor X, crew. Those imposters are the deadliest foes we've ever faced." Iceman says, "So what are we waiting for, Angel? Let's waste the bird brains." And then Cyclops says, "And let's do it now." So, and you can see here Stephen Lang here saying, "I've won. In a few moments, X-Men will be killing X-Men." And when this battle is done, no power on Earth will be able to stop me from achieving my ultimate goal, the extermination of mutant kind. So, and then the name of our story, Greater Love Hath No X-Men, which the credits would have appeared right down here. Oops. So then we get this beautiful double page spread. As I mentioned, Dave Cockrum is inking himself here. So Angel is taking on Banshee here. You've got one heck of a nerve, Banshee. Where does a 2-bit crook like you get off calling himself an X-Men? For those of you who need a little bit of background, originally Banshee was sort of a villain. So Iceman throws a slush ball at Wolverine. Heads up, midget. Wolverine is supposed to be under 6 feet tall. He's supposed to be like 5 something. It's just now people kind of draw him at normal size, but Wolverine is supposed to be shorter than all the X-Men. So Storm says, "Listen to me, all of you. There's no need for violence. If we wish none of you harm, let us sit down and talk. Nightcrawler, we must make them understand." Nightcrawler says, "It's too late for understanding, Storm. Look at these so-called friends of ours, acting more like panicked humans than X-Men. Look into their eyes. They're out for blood, Storm, our blood." And then Colossus says, "I do not understand this madness, nor why you seek our deaths a second time, Havoc. But if you think my comrades and I are going to give up without a fight, think again." And then there's Professor X saying, "Kill the imposters, my X-Men. Kill them all." So here's Beast taking on Nightcrawler. So we'll kind of just we're kind of not really pay attention too much with the dialogue. So we're just gonna concentrate so much on the fighting here. We get now to the part where Nightcrawler talks to or tries to talk to Cyclops here. "Cyclops, why are we fighting among ourselves? What of the threat of Stephen Lang or of his Sentinels? Wait, what happened to your visor?" Because he is wearing the original visor. "You've got it wrong, mister. You're the threat," as he hits them with his optic beam. "And here's where you get eliminated." So, and then Wolverine and Iceman are going against each other. And Wolverine, of course, he's getting irritated. This is a more wild Wolverine. At that time, they hadn't quite decided what to do with him or how to portray him, and he eventually, of course, becomes the Wolverine that we all know and love, and that is super popular. But back then, he, in the beginning, he wasn't quite very likable here. So here, Angel gets him and throws him against Colossus. Great panel here. So, Colossus is like, "Wolverine, the hatred in his voice, did you hear?" And he's like, "I heard it already. Now get us out of here, Colossus. That winged yo-yo owes me a rematch." And Colossus says, "As you wish, my friend. Okay then, just like we did in the danger room. The fastball special execute now." And so we get the famous fastball special here. And Angel's like, "What the?" And of course, Havoc ends up using his powers on Colossus here. One of the things I love about Havoc are the little circles that are that they draw when he uses his power. And then here, some good Kirby dots. So, and of course, Colossus is still mad because this is the second time Havoc has attacked them, which I have covered. So, and so Storm and Jean Grey, and Jean is like, "I can't believe, we've been through so much, and you can see it through in the supplemental material that is covered within the classic X-Men that I've covered before. Storm and Jean Grey are very good friends. So, Jean Grey goes, Liard, I don't know you, never talked to you, never shared a confidence. It's a cheap shot, lady, and it won't work. Storm is like, how can you deny the truth with such hatred? How could your brief captivity made you so unlike yourselves? Unless you're not yourself at all, your true self. So, of course, that must be it. You're the impost. And then she's hit from behind by Polaris. So, and now they're like, let's finish her. And Storm is like, the legs are pinned. She can't pull free. And so Banshee hits them from behind with his power. Because you can see that. So that's how they portray Banshees. Using his sonic blast. So. And he's gonna... Wolverine wants Xavier. The Wolverine's calling you out, bub. I'm burning on a short fuse, Chrome Dome, so you got about 3 seconds to make with the answers or else. And then Xavier's like, your threats do not impress me, Wolverine. And he gets up. In fact, very little about you impresses me. And Wolverine's like, holy! One of my mind blasts has the power to shrivel you where you stand, little man. But my fists contain all the power you deserve, and punches Wolverine. Now remember, Wolverine has adamantium, so Professor X is hitting him quite hard, since it doesn't even phase him. So, on your feet, my friend. I want the satisfaction of knocking you down again. Nice punch, Prof. I'll give you that, but I ain't going down a second time. And Marvel Girl uses her telepathic powers. On the contrary, Wolverine, you are going down again. Only you won't be getting up ever again. Professor X says, good girl, Jean. This arrogant fool hasn't a chance against your mental powers. And Wolverine says, Lord, my brain feels like it's burning. Can't think for pain. Only my instincts left to guide me. Yeah, my instincts, my senses. It won't be long now. Right there, lady. Only you got it backwards. Just couldn't see it till now. You see, folks, I'm like an animal. I don't know from faces. I know from scents, voices, feelings. I also know Jean Grey. And lady, whatever you are, you ain't Jean Grey. And suddenly, boom, out with the claws. So before I go to the next panel, I just want to say how, even early on, Chris Claremont's sense of drama and it's just pretty cool. Claremont was made to write the X-Men. It is so unfortunate things didn't work out with him and Jim Lee, and he ended up leaving, which, you know, even then Jim Lee ended up leaving. But man, what could have been. Nobody writes the X-Men better than Chris Claremont. So just his sense for the dramatic. So, and then he goes here, there isn't even time for a screen. And Colossus is, Lenin's ghost, no. And Banshee's like, Wolverine, you bloody homicidal maniac, what have you done? And Stephen Lang is this, I must see what's happening. Computer, shift to camera 3 immediately. And Wolverine says, done. I've met the enemy, bub, and they ain't us. Of course, we get another wonderful double-page spread here by Cockrum, who is he really is doing a very good job here. So we can see that that Jean Grey was a robot, and we of course see the real Jean Grey here, trapped with Cyclops and Dr. Corbeau and Professor Xavier. So. And Stephen Lang yells, how? By all that's holy, how could this be? My ex-Sentinels were a stroke of genius, the ultimate anti-mutant technology. They should have been unbeatable. The new X-Men should have died, not my Sentinels. And the X-Men will die. The X-Men will die for this. This game is far from over. So, of course, we're gonna get a little bit of kind of a background to the story, but aren't really gonna kind of just stuff that's happened in the past. But we're gonna kind of keep going for the sense of time. Now, this is a new page. This was not in the original one. And so Storm is like, our foes, not the X-Men at all. They are unliving mechanisms. And this guy's like, Mr. Lang, damage reports. Big trouble, sir. Fires on Delta level is out of control. Auto suppression systems inoperative. Command elements failing through the platform. Multiple hull breaches as well. We're suffering a progressive loss of environmental integrity. The lights. Sir, we've lost primary electrics. And Stephen Lang's like, then shift to the secondaries. Idiots, we have more than sufficient redundancy systems to cope with any contingency. That's what you think. If you're so scared, Techno, abandon ship. I'll finish the muties by myself. And Cyclops thinks that these negatomes, they're designed to inhibit the use of our mutant powers, but each fluctuation in the station's power grid disrupts the tube's energy field as well. I can fire my optic blast, and if I keep the pressure full strength, please, Lord, let it be enough to break free. And so, we now go to then, of course, go back to Dave Cockrum, and looks like Stephen Lang's lost a tooth here. And I shall use mutant kind's strongest defenders as their executioners. And who better for the Sentinels' first real victim than the real X-Men? Still, one defeat doesn't mean the war, eh? Lord, the negatube, it's glowing white hot. And then Cyclops breaks free. Like your Sentinels, Dr. Lang, these negatubes leave a little something to be desired. Oh, my lord. And then he uses his powers to free everybody. And she's like, Professor X, he's still unconscious. And Dr. Kerbeau says, I'll catch him. Leaving so soon, Lang. That's awfully rude of you. But then what can we expect from a murdering coward as Lang is running away? Coward, you dare call me a coward? I'm a man, Cyclops, which is more than you'll ever be, you mutant swine. Do you hear me? Homo so-called superior, a man. I'm better than any of you, better than all of you. And now that I've reached my flying gunship, I'll prove it. So, he goes through to blast Cyclops here. You're not proving a thing, Lang, except how sick and twisted you are inside. I fought a lot of villains in my time, mister, but until I met you, I've never hated before. I doubt that. So, and this panel looks like it's done differently. This must be one of the newer panels, or the newer pages. So, you'd hound us without mercy, exterminate us for no other reason that we're different from your conception of humanity. Just who do you think you are? And for your information, Dr. Lang, you won't be killing anyone today. And she's using her telekinetic power to keep the controllers. Got to break free. Get away before I'm captured. I can do it. I'm a man. My will is stronger than any mutant's witch. All I have to do is hit full powers to the thrust. Oh no, the controllers are jammed. I can't turn. Help me. Somebody, X-Men, help me. I'm heading right for the screen. I'm going to... And so, this is the new one. So the other one was the original. That just didn't look like Dave Cockrum. So he hits it. I'm alive. Thanks to my telekinetic protective field. Unlike you, Lang, the X-Men don't kill. You're going back to Earth to stand trial for your crimes. And he goes, I can't. Fools, there isn't a jury in the world who'll convict me. They won't consider me the villain, but the hero. But suddenly, without warning, there's an explosion here. And Jean Grey screams out Stephen Lang's name. Propellant explosion, biggest one yet. Punched the heart of this monkey mouse. Fire spreading our way. Move it, chums. Comrades, I found them. They're still alive. Then quit jabbering, Colossus, and let's get them out of here. This whole section of space platform ablaze and the fire spreading. So out goes everybody. So a few minutes later, they're all in that shuttle. The fire's almost reached the hypergolic fuel cells, Dr. Corbeau. We haven't much time. Wrong, Cyclops. We have all the time in the world. Cause we're sure not going anywhere. At least in this crate. The flight control computer must have gotten slagged during our little fracas with the Sentinels. And without it, we're as good as finished. What about manual re-entry? What about it, Wolverine? In case you hadn't noticed, we got a thumping great hole in the ship's hull, and thanks again to the Sentinels, no functional pressure suits. But that's the least of our problems. The solar flare, says Nightcrawler. You got it, Nightcrawler. The worst flare in years. The computer was supposed to fly us through it while we sat safe and sound in the shuttle's shielded life cell. Only we have no computer. One of you might survive the flare, but you can't pilot the shuttle. We need someone who can do both, but there's no such person, he says, Animal. Sure, I can fly the re-entry, no sweat, but I wouldn't last 30 seconds in that flare. In the, it's so much easier to read comic books now, but with it, it's just kind of hard to tell where you go. And so Jean Grey says, wrong, Dr. Corbeau, I can do both. And Cyclops is like, are you crazy, Jean? Since when are you a qualified astronaut? And so she uses her telepathy. Since now, hold still, Doctor. This will only hurt a little. I'm a telepath, Scott. I can absorb all Dr. Corbeau knows about flying the space shuttle. I won't be a great pilot, but it'll be good enough to get us down. How will you survive the solar flare? You little... My telekinetic powers will screen out the harmful radiation. I'll be all right. How long? Even your power can handle that much. And she uses her powers to kind of knock Cyclops out. Perhaps not, but it can do this. Take him into the life cell, Banshee. And he's like, you hit him pretty hard. And Jean Grey's like, I meant to. By the time he wakes up, we'll be committed. So... And Wolverine tries to talk some sense into her. Nice shot, lady. You bucking the martyr of the year or something? And she's like, make it quick, Wolverine. I'm busy. What are you trying to prove? That you're as good and noble as Big Daddy X? It's a suicide, Jeannie. The name is Jean, mister, and I've had it just about... Oh, and I have just about had it with you. I have tried to like you, Wolverine, obnoxious little upstart that you are, but for the life of me, I don't know why I made the effort. So shut your mouth and get in the life cell now before I lose my temper. And Wolverine's all like, "Urgh." And Storm is like, Jean. And Jean Grey is like, not you too, Ororo. I couldn't bear it. Look, I have the best chance of survival. That's it, pure and simple. It's me or it's none of us. Then may the gods protect you, Jean Grey. Thank you, Ororo. A last favor, my friend. Would you tell Scott? Tell him I loved him. And as they're both crying, because nobody really expects her to make it. And Jean Grey uses kind of her powers. I love the discoloration here, or the different colors to make it kind of weird, kind of cool there. So. Okay, lady, it's time to do your stuff, namely sealing the hull telekinetically with pieces of the wreckage. And away we go. RC's to 20% rear thrust, and we slide free of the station. Easy pie. Oh, easiest pie. I'm sure glad they built this bird to take punishment. Looks like its collision with the station didn't even scratch the paint. Enough musing, Jean. So, off they go to Earth. According to the Star Core, the flare's a minute away, and it'll be half hour at least before we're safe. Lord, I'm scared. I don't want to die. And then Cyclops wakes up, and Nightcrawler's like, Scott, no, if you open the life cell, you'll kill us all. Let me go, blast you. Let me go to her before it's too late. And Nightcrawler cries. Very touching scene here. It's already too late, my friend. Please, Kurt, I beg you, please. 27 minutes to Earth's atmosphere, she thinks. Not long at all. And another absolutely great panel here by Dave Cockrum. Just the rest of my life. Corbeau wasn't kidding about the flare. It's barely here, and it's already pushing my powers to the limits. Only consolation is that even Colossus wouldn't have survived this long. So hold on, Jean, for the love of all you hold dear. Hold on. And so 20 minutes to go. The strain can't take it. Oh no, my screen's starting to give. The flare, the radiation is starting to get through. And she yells, Scott! And to be concluded. But of course, I'm using classic X-Men. So there is a backstory, which we didn't get with the original, which is why I wanted to do classic X-Men versus just reading regular X-Men. So we get a pinup by Dave Cockrum. And we get a backstory here. So all that is, I am. We get these nice little vertical panels. I was born with the first fire. I shall remain until the last celestial spark is extinguished. Nothing lives that is not touched by a part of me. The stars are my children, and nothing is more cherished than those which have in turn spawned life. High above the third orb, called the Earth, a construct tumbles through the dark, while another, smaller vehicle plunges recklessly toward its home world, fleeing the wild energies of a solar flare, surging invisibly outwards from the sun. There are noble souls within, and doomed as well. So, of course, we kind of get that scene again where Cyclops is trying to get out to see her, and he's begging, please let me go. And so, and Wolverine, I like how Wolverine is sitting there because he's still annoyed how he got told off. We get this nice little scene here. Please, I love her. I don't want her to die. Or Zukowski is doing the letters on this second part here. And so we get some stuff that we've already sort of covered as she's thinking of how to try and save everybody. John Bolton is very good. I really enjoy his pen and ink work. So, the child's will far outstrips her strength. She knows this. And the beginnings of fear as well. And so here's Corbeau. 20 minutes more at least. So, I've never seen rad count so high, rad for radiation. For what it's worth, outside of this shielded compartment, any of the rest of us would be dead in seconds. Jean Grey, our only hope, X-Men. And so, a great scene again, showing as she is struggling, showing the pain, showing all these kind of things. It's amazing. It's very good. I'm so glad Classic X-Men exists. I'm so glad Chris Claremont had the chance to go back and add supplemental material, because I think it makes the story even better. So, of course, radiation is so much. She is literally dying in front of us because she has received so much radiation. So The flesh withers under the savage onslaught, yet her spirit soars higher, more fiercely defiant than ever. So quick, so brutal, can barely see ultraviolet, occluding my eyes with cataracts, bleeding inside and out, massive hemorrhaging as cellular bonds dissolve, losing my hair too. Wish that was the worst of it. Lucky I'm weightless. Heart would burst under the strain of gravity. My bones would crumble to powder. This isn't fair. This isn't right. Not when I fought so hard. And so, light behind me, an explosion. Are we on fire? Don't be foolish. Can't be anything I can see. Because I'm blind. Then what? Hallucination? Pain is gone. No, no, no. I won't die. I won't give up. Not while so much still depends on me. Absolutely great, showing just all these things we didn't get to see. It's just so cool. Again, I'm so glad Classic X-Men exists. I think Classic X-Men. There's a supplemental material that was just released, but it was only the new stuff. And I really, truly wish that Marvel would reprint everything with Classic X-Men as included with their reprints, because I think that it really gives people a better view. So, all right. So now we have an object, and if you are familiar with the X-Men, you know what this is. But if you're not, come along for the ride. Be not afraid. No harm is meant. And Jean Grey is like voice, like music in my mind. Who are you? The sum and substance of life and hopes and dreams. All that is known to me. I have known you, Jean Grey, from the moment of your conception, as I have known the universe. You cried out for aid. I heard. I came. Great. This is just so good. So, this is crazy. Am I crazy? No more than any finite being confronting the infinite. Your form, child, is so fragile. How can you possibly endure? And she's like, I must, to save the X-Men, and most especially Scott. That image cast from my soul. Oh, my love, I've never seen you look so beautiful. The essence of my hopes and dreams. All that almost was, will never be. My innermost secrets, yearnings, how could you possibly know? Very touching. My consciousness, my form, and its ability to communicate on this plane of existence derive from you. They provide an awareness of your dominant emotions and memories. Oh, great. You mean you're a figment of my imagination? A jest, yet what is imagination save the ability to conceive of that which is beyond reality? You are human, Jean Grey. I am of creation. So you can see kind of this being starting to turn into Jean Grey. What is happening? You're changing, assuming a tangible shape. You're becoming me. A shell, nothing more. And only for the present. Your own physicality cannot easily be restored for its own protection. Your mind refuses to acknowledge the full extent of your injuries. Your existence is far closer to its transition than you realize. Not dying then, already dead, hanging on barely by force of will alone. What do you want of me? You called, child of man, and I, mother of stars, answered. It is not for you to name it. It is for you to name your heart's desire. Love, just how poorly pitiful Jean Grey is looking here. And I'll get my wish just like that. Why do I suspect that's too good to be true? All things have their price. What's mine? Does that matter? Yes. I am glad. Take my hand, Charles, that we two may become one. Your humanity, my power, bonded by passion, tempered by love, the ultimate force at last given means to express itself. I can't wait. Time's almost gone. I have to choose. Be warned. The fire I offer can burn as well as warm, destroy as easily as heal, and it always consumes. The glory I offer is transcendent, likewise. The danger and the flame once taken can never be extinguished. Love this panel. John Bolton, very good artist in his own right. The power, it's too much beyond comprehensions. Suppose I can't handle it. I'm not worthy. How can I accept? You know that answer already, else you would not have summoned me. I'm afraid, says Jean, with good reason, says, well, again, I won't ruin it if you've never seen it. Death is the certainty that ends to all burdens, all responsibilities. Life, the greatest of unknowns, each day, every moment contains risks, safety, and perhaps peace, can be found only in the grave. I may be salvation or damnation or both. Which now is your heart's desire? If the choice was for me alone, to save the X-Men, I dance with the devil himself, and I want to live, she says, kind of very small here. All things are possible, child. You may yet dance with the devil without, and that far more terrible one within. And so suddenly, we go, I'm alive, more so than ever before. This is fantastic. I can see the solar wind shunt its radiation streams aside with ease. Hear the star song, the language of the Milky Way itself. I feel the resonance of everything on Earth. Oh, is this me? I didn't think there would be a body, and it's still alive. Only a spark, but so bright. Some stubborn piece of my soul, still fighting on its own terms, refusing the gift that was offered. And so, who knows? Perhaps that's the right choice, or maybe it's a second chance in case things go wrong. I don't know. There's so much I don't know. Will I have time to learn? This is me. As much as I am in this new form, I can't abandon myself. I'll enfold the body in a cocoon that will sustain it while it heals. And when it does, what then? I don't know. I wonder, was this how God felt in his first moment with all the creation to play with and nobody to tell him how to do it? I am fire, the soul, and the spirit of life incarnate. Forgive me, X-Men. I am no longer the woman you knew. This was done because of that John Byrne story in Fantastic Four. Again, Chris Claremont is engulfing everything, and I'm, again, so glad this supplemental story was here. I am Phoenix. And we end with this amazing, just amazing page here. So, Chris Claremont did such a great job here. So, and then of course, my copy came without the back cover. So this is what the back cover would have looked like on the story. Classic X-Men, because number one, this is how I discovered the X-Men. I was 12 years old when this series started, and these issues were unaffordable. Heck, I'm an adult now, and I still can't afford them. But I still have my beat-up copies of Classic X-Men. And this wonderful cover by Arthur Adams. Look at this. So, Arthur Adams penciled and inked this amazing cover. So, yeah. So here we go. Here's the original cover of X-Men 101. This one, of course, is very iconic. Which one do you like? Most people, of course, are going to go with this one here. I like this view of the Phoenix. So, but Art Adams doesn't do a bad job. Here's this front piece. Like I said, this is how I discovered the X-Men. So the way classic X-Men works, if this is your first video, I suggest you go to the playlist. But so Chris Claremont basically wrote a bunch of supplemental material. Dave Cockrum is the original penciler. Tom Morgan did the supplemental pages. Looks like he did 7, 8, and 9. And then John Bolton does the backup story. So John Bolton is his own inker. Arthur Adams did the cover and the frontispiece, and then the back cover will be by John Bolton. So we are going to basically continue where we left off here. You're going to notice the letterer. It's still not Tom Orzechowski. He didn't come till much later. So, prologue. Welcome to the last moment of a young woman's life. Her name is Jean Grey. For 20 minutes now, while her fellow X-Men sit helplessly in the ship's radiation-proof life cell, she has been piloting the Starscore space shuttle toward Earth through the worst solar storm in living memory. It was an all-or-nothing gamble that her telepathic powers would protect her from the cosmic radiation. I don't know how they understand comic books, but if you have powers of the mind, that normally isn't going to help you with radiation. So, all right. So, oh my goodness. Anyway, we'll continue here. Long enough for her to fly the shuttle into the safety of Earth's atmosphere, and for her friends, it may have paid off, but for Jean Grey, and here we can see they're landing. It looks like they're going to crash land in the water. Here they go. And they crash, and of course, like a phoenix from the ashes. So, and it's lands, but because of the momentum, it skips and then lands in the water. And it looks like the X-Men weren't going to make it, but come the X-Men. And Colossus says, Cyclops, I was the last one out. Then we are safe. All except the lady who got us down here. I'm going back for her right now. He says, Cyclops, are you mad? You cannot save Jean. The radiation, the crash. And Cyclops says, you stopped me once before, Nightcrawler. Get in my way this time and I'll kill you. So, a little bit more violent, these X-Men. Love Wolverine. His, Cyclops, all of you, look. Something's happening to the water. And Cyclops says, right over where the shuttle sank. But what? And then, of course, here comes the Phoenix. Hear me, X-Men. No longer am I the woman you knew. I am life. I'm sorry, I'm fire, life incarnate. Now and forever, I am Phoenix. So, great, iconic piece there. And then she's like, my mind's burning. So many memories, sensations, pain inside, tearing me apart. What's happening to me? What have I done? And then she calls out for Scott, and Scott calls out for Jean. And he's like, take it easy, hon. I've got you. You're safe now, Jean. The flight's over. We're all back on Earth, and you're going to be all right. She's lying so still, barely breathing, almost no pulse. Stop thinking like that, mister. She'll pull through. She's got to. And so he carries her. And so, Cyclops, your costume. I know, Colossus, there are more, her costume. And he says, there are more questions than we can handle right now. Jean's creating a costume out of nothing, using powers she never had before. The very fact that she's still alive, but she is alive, I'll settle for that. And so For the moment, students, let us not compound our problem. Perhaps the fewer costume super beings present when the police arrive, the better. And so Nightcrawler uses his image inducer. And so, and then Nightcrawler says, I'll expand its range to the maximum extent to cover us all and cloak us completely from view. In effect, we'll become invisible. And Dr. Corbeau says, better leave me out of it, Nightcrawler. Someone's going to have to explain this mess. And perhaps take the rap for it, as you wish, Dr. Corbeau. And so, this guy goes, I need a medic. I got a survivor here. And this guy is calling out for the EPA because of the fuel of the shuttle. And so they're going to look for any on board. And he goes, no, I'm the only one. Corbeau, Director, Project Starco. Terrorists hijacked space station. My crew murdered. And then Wolverine is like, do you think anybody will buy his story? And so they got bigger problems right now. So, and Phoenix, you can see here, the light, the glory, stars, worlds, all creation, a part of me. Cyclops... Professor X says, Storm, summon a wind to fan the smoke in our direction so we may slip under its covers. And Phoenix, of course, is still going so much, too much reality already slipping away. And then Wolverine says, that gets us off the field, Charlie. Where the heck do we go from here? And so we now get supplemental material that was not in the original issue. So Storm is flying into the X-Men's headquarters, the X-Mansion. And so Storm says, there is our home. How peaceful and serene it looks. If only our lives were the same. I must be quick. The others are depending on me. What happened to Jean? In Africa, I was a goddess. I wonder, mad as it sounds, if Jean may have become one. And so Storm is going through getting outfits for everybody. And then hurries on out and heads back to New York City. And so he's using, Professor X is using his mind powers to sort of hijack this person here. And so everybody is going to go in. And he feels bad, but he puts in money for him so that this is not all for nothing. So Cyclops says, Professor, we can't show Jean like this. Her costume's bound to stir up talk. It's weird. Not like normal cloth. It doesn't seem to be any way to remove it. And so Wolverine's like, that bub will be my pleasure. And Cyclops says, she's the claw mister before I ram it. And suddenly she changes. And they're like wondering how it happened. Professor X says, fascinating. Fundamental reorganization of molecular structure. Telekinesis of the highest order. And until now, beyond even Jean's potential, let alone her capability. So Cyclops like, she's unconscious. How did she know what needed doing? And Banshee says, easy, lad. Let's get her into the hospital. Then we can try to puzzle out the rest. So we go now to Dave Cockrum here. Wolverine is walking through. We get to hear that they all believed Dr. Corbeau's story. And there's no mention of the X-Men. And Jean is in the hospital already. And so Wolverine is buying some flowers. And he asks, hey, are you buying them for your sick friend? And Wolverine's like, that's none of your business, bub. Here's your buck. I'll take the flowers. So Wolverine's like, man, you gotta be crazy. You know that acting like a school kid, still wet behind the ears. And for some broad, what's Jean Grey to you anyway? Someone I like and want. And what Wolverine wants, he gets. but not this time. So Wolverine's, like I said, he's smitten like a school kid, but everyone's just kind of sitting there, waiting. Here's Moira McTaggart. So the X-Men are waiting, and Wolverine tosses the flowers. So, and Moira says, the doctors have been with Jean for such a long time. Charles, are you sure there's nothing you can do? Perhaps using your telepathic powers. And Professor X says, I only wish I could, Moira, but I can't. Every time I use them to any great extent, my mind is savaged by my cursed dream. So he's kind of been having the dreams, if you remember. Lately, anything beyond absolutely minimal power brings on a seizure. No, Moira, I cannot help this girl. I once thought I loved as much as you do. I cannot even help myself. And so, you can see Moira and Banshee are holding hands here. Moira, it'll be over soon. I'm thinking. I can feel it. And, Nightcrawler is talking to, Colossus here. Poor Scott. He's such a man of action. This endless waiting must be a living hell for him. And so, Scott's thinking to himself, all those wasted years when I loved Jean and she loved me and neither of us had the sense to tell the other. And now if she dies, it'll all have been for nothing. I mean, what do you do when the light goes out of your life? When Jean moved down to the city to build a life for herself outside of the X-Men, I let her go because I thought that the X-Men were what gave my life meaning. But they're not. It's Jean. It's always been Jean. Only I never realized it till now. So, when I'm about, I never realized till now when I'm about to lose her forever. And so, over the, he overhears something. It's not like you to argue with the reality of Dr. Corbeau or deny the evidence of your own eyes. And Scott's like, huh? As he overhears it. Face it, my friend, as Sherlock Holmes often said, once you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. And so, Cyclops says, Dr. Corbeau, Dr. McKay, how is she? And Dr. McKay says, it's going to be touch and go for a while, Mr. Summers, but with rest and proper care, friends to look after her, Dr. Corbeau and I think Miss Gray is going to be just fine. And the X-Men rejoice. And so, Nightcrawler noticed Cyclops going in there, and he is so happy. He cries, but those are tears of joy. So, all right. So Nightcrawler tells Professor X that Cyclops will be out in a moment, and Professor X says that he doesn't need Cyclops for what he has to say, but he can only say it if the rest of them do him the courtesy of quieting down. Banshee says, no need to snap, Charles, and Professor X apologizes. He says the pressures of the last weeks are beginning to take a toll on him, essentially. So he says, which is part of the reason I'm sending you five on an enforced vacation. And Wolverine, you can see he takes his claws out. He says, stick it in your ear, bub, because none of us are going anywhere till Jeannie's better. And Professor X says, control yourself, Wolverine, and for once in your life, listen and think. You heard the doctor. Jean's recovery depends on the care and attention she receives, care that Scott and I are prepared to give her. Unfortunately, we can't look after Jean and run the X-Men at the same time. Therefore, a brief and well-earned holiday is in order. Whatever happens, I won't have you staying around the hospital. You'll just get in the way. So, Banshee says, I'm not sure I agree with what you're saying, Charles, but you're the boss. And if you're still undecided about where to send us, I think I can fill that bill. It seems so my lawyer, Mr. Flaherty, writes me that I've inherited the Cassidy ancestral home. And Professor is like, let me see. It's in a remote part of the county. I don't know. I understand it's more like, he's trying to write them how they speak, but um so Professor X thinks that it's an excellent suggestion, and they'll make arrangements, and he tells the X-Men to have a good time. So they're flying all the way to Ireland, and then they take a train, and then they take this little car. So, and you can see they're bumping. Very cool here. So, Banshee says, now don't get yourself into an uproar, midget, as he's referring to Wolverine. That's how we build our roads here, with character. Real quick, Wolverine is supposed to be shorter. He's supposed to be like in the 5.5 foot, but range, he's supposed to be shorter than everybody else, but everybody just draws him like a normal person, so it gets lost in there. People just need to remember that he's supposed to be shorter. So Storm says, if so, then you should build your automobiles to match, say with springs and softer seats. She would have been better off flying. So, and Banshee says, it's a pretty day, but Professor X says, don't bring attention to yourselves. And Colossus is like, the professor's not writing in this 4-wheeled torture chamber. And so, and they've finally arrived. And here's Cassidy Castle, because, hey, why can't they have these things? And so, unglaublich, which I think means unbelievable or awesome or something like that in German. Banshee, this is incredible. You say you grew up here? And he says, yep. It must have been marvelous. Yeah, well, I suppose it's time for me to switch to my human guys. And he says, I don't know, bub. Place like this, I figure you'll fit right in the way you are. So we'll look at this very good panel there, or splash page by Cockrum. So we can see our heroes are being watched by Black Tom. So I think that's Storm behind us, says, how do we get in? And Banshee says, simple, I ring the doorbell and we wait for Mr. O'Donnell to lower the drawbridge. And so Black Tom says, so cousin, you've come after all, and brought friends with you as expected. 5 flies winging their ways into Black Tom's web, never to escape alive. You have your orders, Eamon O'Donnell. Escort them in, make them comfortable, but give them no inkling that anything's amiss. No, Tom Cassidy, I'll never do that. I've done evil things in your service, but I'll no party to the murder. He's not gonna help him kill innocent people. And so Black Tom is like, you defy me, will you? Have you forgotten the lives I hold in the palm of my hand, the lives of those you hold here, held hostage for your good behavior, and you dare defy me? And so Black Tom hits him with his stick. You'll be party to whatever I tell you, little man, or you'll watch those who love and trust you die in agony. Is my meaning clear, Eamon O'Donnell? And so Eamon O'Donnell is like, I curse your butcher's heart. It's clear as crystal. So from behind him, someone says, you're a fool to trust him. And Black Tom says, that's where you're wrong, my friend. As long as the families are in my power, he'll do whatever I command. So he'll even betray a man he loves as his own son. So the X-Men, basically, he's telling them to get them in. Storm, remember, she's claustrophobic. She's feeling caged, just all stone, no flowers, no nothing. So they say, I hope your room's satisfactory, but you can see these creatures are kind of looking down on them. And so Storm's in her room, and she's like, Banshee, you're so happy to be home. While I will only be happy the day I leave this castle forever. Jean would say Cassidy Keep has bad vibes for me, but it does not. But and it does, but I will not be ruled by my fears. I must force myself to relax. So she gets naked and she calls her own rainstorm. So she gets ready for the party. Nightcrawler arrives to escort her, and she's like, "Hey, you're not even ready." So he uses his image inducer. So this would be oh my goodness, frankly Scarlet. What is his name? Oh, some of these oh my goodness gracious. I'm sorry. I'm not I know this is Groucho Marx, and I think this is Charles Bronson. Clark Gable. But this guy, don't know who he is. He does look recognized. So she takes off her gown or her robe, and she was wearing this beautiful gown, and Nightcrawler is just taken aback, and she goes, "Tell me, Kurt, am I pretty?" And he says, "Ororo, you're one of the most beautiful women it has been my privilege to know. If that's true, then thank you, I think," she says. So it's time for dinner, and he puts on his cap, and he arrives, and everyone says, like, "What gives?" The old man said this was a formal shebang. So what's with you coming to the table looking like a stable hand? And so he says, "I'm the lord of this manor. I get to come to dinner, dress however I please." So, and of course, Peter's like, making the moves on Storm 2. And Nightcrawler's like, "Back off, Peter. Tonight, Aurora's my date." And he says, "I'm no one's date, Kurt. I enjoy it with being both of you, which means that the three of us will go into dinner together as equals." So, as they're walking, it's a trap door, and suddenly they all like get their costumes on. So, as they're falling, so they arrive, and of course we have Black Tom and the Juggernaut here. So Black Tom says, "Why, dear cousin Sean, how nice of you to shall we say drop in. In case you haven't guessed, my muscular friend and I are the villains of the piece. I'm Black Tom Cassidy. And I, students of Charles Xavier, my deadly hated state brother. Oh yes, we know who you are, X-Men. I'm the Juggernaut, and together we two are going to do what no other villain in the history of the world have been able to do. We're going to kill the X-Men." So Banshee says, "Is that meant to scare us? Do you plan to talk us to death?" And "Bluster away, cousin. It'll do no good. You're in the dungeons now, deep inside Cassidy Crag, with countless tons of rock between you and freedom. You've no chance, Banshee. This place will be your tomb." And of course, remember, Storm is claustrophobic, and she's like, "Tomb, closed in, rock, no way out. Rocks bury me, crushing me. Can't breathe. Can't think. Mother, help me." And then she begins to scream. And we end the issue. Who shall stop the Juggernaut is next. But remember, this is classic X-Men. I show you in the beginning that there is a backup story. And so we got a story called The Gift. So we're back in New York. This story probably would have taken place in the beginning of the story, but that's all right. The sounds of the city are muted in the last haunted hours before dawn, the witching time when as many ghosts as people are said to walk the earth. A radio is playing out by the nurse's station, vintage folk in keeping with the moment and the mood as Simon and Garfunkel's counterpoint themselves through the Scarborough Fair. A Christmas tree stands in the plaza below. He's been staring at it for hours. In the past night, the new year well and truly begun. Why, he wonders without really caring, hasn't anyone taken it down? So here's that Christmas tree he's referring to. So, the tree is supposed to signify a time of celebration and joy, yet there is none in Kurt Wagner's heart, or would we say Wagner, like they do in German. So he's been waiting too long, as have all the X-Men, for words of their stricken teammate Jean Grey, who brought them home from space. So this is taking place when they were all in the hospital together, probably at the cost of her own. He visited the hospital chapel, lit candles, offered prayers. Jean remains unconscious, deep in a coma, yet neither has she died. He wants to do more, and chafes as the whole team does the knowledge that he can't. Then, and so he hears something. In a puff of smoke and noisome flame, he vanishes from the room. That's his power, the genetic quirk which makes him more than human, and in the bargain gives him the features of a roguish devil, and his talent to teleport instantaneously from one spot to another. The others have powers too, and all have been banded together by their teacher, Charles Xavier, into a team of superheroes. And so, Nightcrawler says, or thinks, what in heaven's name have we here? Poor little thing, he looks miserable. Small wonder, considering the cold. And so you can hear, like, and he's like, in the tree, making noise. It's getting louder, coming closer. By the way, the letters are by Tom Orzechowski. And it's this little bird, so, which scares the kid. And Nightcrawler laughs. And this is pretty cool. You can't. Nightcrawler has indigo skin, so he kind of blends. At night in shadows, that makes him virtually invisible. The kid's like, what the heck? And so behind him, pardon my intrusion, but aren't you a bit too young, as the hour is extremely late, to be haunting this neighborhood? Should you not be home in bed? So the kid says, I suppose, but I'm waiting for someone. Do you mind? He says. And Nightcrawler thinks, he must be like me, with a relative or friend as a patient here. Would you be more comfortable inside? And he says, there's no place for me in there. Kids are only allowed in as sickos, meaning they're sick themselves. They're afraid we'll wreck the hospital or something, like we don't know how to behave. And he's like, jerks. Sometimes kids know better than adults what's really going on. And so Nightcrawler says, what should I do? I can't leave him here. But how to get him back where he belongs? I don't even know his name. And so suddenly you get a flashlight, most likely a security or police officer. What the heck's going on here? What are you people doing here? This is private property. You ain't supposed to be here. So Nightcrawler says, I can explain. I don't want to hear it. Plaza's closed for the night, like the sign says. How'd you both get in here anyway? With the gates and doors locked tight. Better move along and don't let me catch you back in here. Next time I'll call the cops. So it was a security guard. Love the shadow of Nightcrawler there. So here's they're in the cafeteria here, and the kid says, never much like that stupid place. Nothing good ever came out of it, that's for sure. And Nightcrawler says, it's hardly that awful. What do you know, says the kid, that a growing boy needs their nourishment. So try some pie and hot cocoa. It's delicious. Thanks, but I'm not hungry. And he says, my name's I'll say it the English way. My name's Kurt Wagner, says Nightcrawler. Daniel Cameron, says the kid. You know, Daniel, I have a very dear friend in the intensive care ward in critical condition. I don't know whether she'll live or die. She's lucky in a way, though. Unconscious as she is, at least she's out of it. I have to wait. Watching the days drift past, counting the seconds, hoping for the best, imagining the worst, wondering why it's taking so long. And Daniel says, isn't much better when you're sick, except you've got more at stake. You sound like you speak from experience, says Nightcrawler. Ancient history, over and done with. All the more reasons, it seems, for you to be snug a bed at home. You trying for a relapse? And the kid says, that'll be the day. Real quick before I turn the page. One of the neat things about cartoonists during, the probably the early 90s down are all these marks that were made. Like you can see here, these ticks around the neck, here for the cheekbones, here again for the bottom, just to create shade and to create, so it was really, you look at them. I mean, there's nothing in there except just to provide, wrinkles and stuff like that. So besides, it isn't safe, says Nightcrawler. Says who? I stayed home like the perfect little boy my whole life. I live here, Mr. Wagner. This city is my home. Why should I be scared of it? And Nightcrawler says, not scared, Daniel. Careful, respectful of its dangers. By rights, you should not be here with me. We only just met. You've no idea what kind of person I am, whether or not I can be trusted. That I can be is your good fortune. Next time you might not be so lucky. What of your parents? They're certain to be upset once they find you missing. It's no big deal. They know where I am. And so, Nightcrawler thinks, they allow this? Don't they care? What kind of parents are they? Nevertheless, young man, I would feel better if you were home. Suit yourself. Makes no difference to me, says the kid. Typical. When you need one the most, there isn't a taxi to be seen. And the kid says, it's okay, I'd rather walk. It isn't far, only straight cross town to the west side. Shall we go then, says Nightcrawler. And so the two of them kind of are walking, and Nightcrawler's concerned with his mood. And he says, Daniel, I used to be in the circus. And so he does his acrobats. And the kid, you can see him finally smile. And so he says, let's cut through the park. And Nightcrawler's like, no, stay with me. And he's like, he's not listening. So he teleports to try and get in front of him. And he's like, catch me if you can, Mr. Snowpoke. And then he's already there. And he's like, what? And then, of course, you get the how. And so he's like, nobody gets me that easy. And no matter where he goes, he's there, of course. And he's doing some juggling, kind of entertaining the kid. And so after time has passed, don't lose any. I borrowed these balls from the park equipment shed to be returned when we're done. Magic isn't a matter of power, witches and spells, that sort of thing. It's a creation of a state of mind that becomes a state of being. So, anyway, as you can see, dawn is happening. And Daniel says, the sky's almost light, I gotta go. And he goes, oh my god, I lost track of time. And he was like, Daniel was enjoying himself. He's as sad as having to stop as I. Before we leave, one last hand. I'll muck it up. No. And so he's gonna teach him how to juggle. And so he gets to his house and he says, I'm glad I met you. And he says, maybe I'll see you later at the hospital. And says, I'll be there today anyway. He says, Daniel, wait. There's a secret of myself I need to show you. And so he uses the image inducer and turns it off. He wants to show him what he really looks. He says, wow, oh wow. I thought you were something different about you, but I never imagined, I never dreamed. Fantastic. And he says, you're not afraid of my pal? No way. And hey, Kurt, don't worry about your sick lady friend. She'll be fine. Trust me. So The next day, or later still, Kurt's very happy. He says, "Excuse me, nurse, I'm looking for a friend, a lad about 12 named Daniel Cameron." And he says, "I'm afraid you're too late." He says, "I beg your pardon? This is Daniel. He died last night. Poor thing. He had cancer." And he says, "There must be some mistake. Last night I saw, I spoke, I touched." And he realized that it was a ghost. Who were you waiting for, Daniel? The Reaper? Why did you show yourself to me? Was that an accident, coincidence, or perhaps the answer to a desperate prayer? Who was trying to comfort whom? Whichever it worked. Perhaps, my friend, this truly is a great secret. The world, like a juggler's ball, goes round and round and round. And the trick is to live the best you can while you can. For that way, there will always be light shining bravely, joyously, even in the deepest darkness. So, thus ends our story here. And as always, this would have been the back cover. So we are going to be looking at Classic X-Men number 10 from 1987. Beautiful cover by Arthur Adams of the Juggernaut going after Storm and the fallen X-Men. It is just a great cover. I like these Arthur Adams covers more than the original. So here is the original. This issue, of course, is going to look at X-Men 102. Look at that. Dave Cockrum does the cover. X-Men 102 is from 1976. Chris Claremont is the writer. Dave Cockrum does the original pencils. Classic X-Men, and the reason I'm using Classic X-Men, first of all, it's how I learned about the X-Men. I wasn't an X-Men fan growing up, but I became an X-Men. I had a buddy who just loved the X-Men, and he got me into it. And Classic X-Men had just come out, so I was able to jumpstart from essentially Chris Claremont's run. John Romita Sr. does the supplemental material, and John Bolton does the new backup story that Chris Claremont wrote. So the frontispiece is also by Arthur Adams with Terry Austin. So good stuff. I like Classic X-Men. So this is the way I think everyone should read. Classic X-Men just gives you so much more that the original issues just didn't have. So when we left off, we saw that the Storm basically had a mental breakdown because of her claustrophobia. And now the Juggernaut is laying waste to the new X-Men. So here we go. So Juggernaut says, "So you call yourselves the new X-Men, do you? Well, among the lot of you, who will stop the Juggernaut?" Look at this. Just walloping everybody, and Storm is essentially, like I said, having a mental breakdown. So Banshee says, "Who indeed? Juggernaut and Black Tom are taking us like rank amateurs, and maybe we are. We came to my family's ancestral castle to enjoy a well-earned vacation. We let our guard down, and now we're paying the price." I have a playlist. I started covering Classic X-Men from the very beginning, so every issue is in the playlist. So if you want to kind of see what's going on from the beginning, check it out. So Banshee is making his way toward Black Tom. And he goes, "Coming my way, cousin. You haven't changed, you know. The Juggernaut's stronger than the lot of you combined. And as for me, well, isn't it a pity that I'm immune to the Banshee's vaunted sonic scream?" And Banshee's like, "He's right on both counts. Blast him. Every other time Juggernaut fought the X-Men, it was Jean Grey's and Professor X's mental powers that beat him in the end. but Jean's in the hospital and Professor X is in New York, which means we'll just have to make do on our own. And Banshee jumps. I was trying to look for the. Oh my goodness, I apologize. Jumps toward Black Tom. Maybe you're immune to my power, Black Tom Cassidy, but let's see how you fare against a good old-fashioned punch to the jaw. So they're Irish, so they're doing the Irish, the way Irish speak English. So Nightcrawler's like, Miss Juggernaut, you'll have to do better than that if you wish to tag Nightcrawler. And Colossus is concerned about Storm. He's like, what is wrong, my friend? You screamed a moment ago as if you were in mortal pain. And you can see here, Storm is like, Mother, help me. I'm so scared. So Wolverine's talking to Colossus, says, Colossus, what do you think you're doing, bub? I wish to help Storm. And Wolverine's like, forget Storm, you tin dummy. We're the ones getting stomped. And he's like, don't use that tone of voice with me, Wolverine. Fine by me, bub. And you can see Nightcrawler just go bam on the background. I got no more time for words anyhow. And just takes Colossus and shoves him into Juggernaut. Way to go, Ruski. So Colossus, of course, do not call me that, and do not come between me and my friends again, Wolverine, or by all I hold dear. Now, keep in mind that Wolverine, during this era, they were trying to figure out how to frigging get to Wolverine. Chris Claremont just kept making him an antagonist. And, you know, throughout the years, then they were eventually able to come to the Wolverine that we know and loved right now. But Wolverine was a bit of a jerk early on and you've seen everybody snap at him. Professor X snapped at him. Cyclops snaps at him. Colossus is now snapping at him. Jean Grey snapped at him last issue. So, I mean, everyone's snapping at the poor guy. So Wolverine takes his claws out and says, well, I'll be. Peter Pureheart finally gets mad on. Okay, bub, all you got to do is pick the time and place. And Juggernaut's like, here, fools, and now. And so it's too late. Here comes Juggernaut. And your friends already learned the hard way that nobody turns his back on the Juggernaut. Because no matter how hard you hit me or how hard you try, Juggernaut can never be stopped. That's what you say, Chubby, but let's see how that armor of yours stands up to the mutant with the adamantium claws. And you can see Wolverine attacks Juggernaut. So Juggernaut is not impressed. So Nightcrawler's like, nice try, Wolverine, but you didn't even slow him down. Of the five of us, only Storm would even have a chance. But all she does is huddle in a corner and cry, Storm, Ororo, snap out of it, woman. And she's like, Kurt, please, we're being murdered, Storm. Why won't you help? And so Juggernaut's like, I wouldn't worry about the woman, Goblin, if I were you. So he goes after them but misses them both. And so Nightcrawler's going to try to get away and regroup here. So he thinks, the problem is that I can't keep out of his reach forever. And from all I've read, there's no way we can outfight Juggernaut. Our only hope is to outthink him. If only it were that easy. So Juggernaut's like, all right, since the goblins escaped me for the moment, I'll take the girl's life instead, and just grab Storm by the hair. And Nightcrawler teleports immediately back. Let her go, Butcher, lest you discover how much of a demon Nightcrawler truly is. And then he tosses Storm. My pleasure, Spock ears. The girl isn't worth the effort anyway. And so this is one of the few times where you will see um, adultish language during this era. Damn you, Ororo. These are your friends being killed. Your friends who cry out to you for aid. And what is your reply? I'm sorry, so sorry. Help them. God forgive me. I can't. So we're going to get a bit of her origin, which has been a mystery. You know, we don't know much about any of these except for what originally was shared in Giant Size X-Men #1, and their origin has been little by little um, put in. But this is the first time, because of the supplemental material, we have had a little bit more as to Storm's fears, but we've never really seen her origin. So we're about to get it. So we've got New York City and Harlem, and it's 1951. And so you see here baby Ororo. Now, of course, if this was 1951 and she was born, you know, she'd be pretty old right now. So, of course, now they don't really give dates, but, you know. So here's her father and mother. So, and Storm was 6 months old during this time. And so her dad says, "So long, 112th Street. I hope I never see you again." All right. Happy, hun? And why not? I'm going home, David, through Cairo. It's 2,000 miles north of Kenya. I know. I sometimes wonder where David Monroe, aspiring photojournalist, got the nerve to ask an African princess to marry him. From love, perhaps. That's where I gained the courage to say yes. Look at Ororo. Only a baby. She looks like she understands every word we're saying. She does, David, because she's a special child. I knew it from the instant of her conception. So here we have the supplemental material. So this is the new stuff that was done by John Romita Sr. The next 5 years were like a never-ending adventure as the young correspondent, as ambitious as he was talented, oiled his trade throughout Middle East and Africa, working his heart out, building his reputation. For David Monroe, it was the happiest of times. But that happy corner of the world has always been a white-hot cauldron, where all too often age-old hatreds and national rivalries explode into war. And so, those planes are after the Egyptian armored column on the highway, way too close to this house for comfort. We've got to get out here, andare fast. Or is it endare? As soon as the attack breaks, we'll head into the city. I'll leave you at the American Embassy until the safest place... Until then, the safest place for us is the cellar. Don't worry, you two. Everything's going to work out just fine. And so you can see this airplane's being hit, and now it's falling down. And it's going to go right to them. And goes and destroys the top of the building. Unfortunately, killing both her mom and dad. Leaving Storm an orphan. For a time, there was only darkness until pain of body and soul forced her cruelly awake. And you can see Storm. Mother. And so... And now we got the supplement to her origin. And so Storm basically grew up in the streets. She learned how to be a thief and a pickpocket. But then when she became 12, the girl became a woman. Some strange inner compulsion drew her from the city south across the Sahara. She walked for a year, 2,000 miles from Cairo to the Serengeti Plains. And though she'd never seen the majesty of Mount Kilimanjaro or Veldt beyond, she knew at that moment she saw the land that she had come home. And so again, we get John Romita. This is supplemental material. It was Paradise. And she made the most of it. During her great trek, she had discovered that something far more than her white hair and blue eyes made her special, if not unique. By concentrating, she could bend the winds to her will so that she could fly. At first, she had not the slightest notion of what she would do with the rest of her life, beyond ensuring her survival and some creature comforts, until local tribe elders who'd learned of her presence and rumors of her fantastic powers asked for her help to combat the drought that ravaged the land. It never entered her mind to refuse. If her power could do some good, it would be her pleasure. And you can see here, she calls on the rain. Sometimes I wonder these powers of people, of these mutants. It's like, how far-fetched. Real quick, I just want to point out that John Romita Sr. drew during a time where you can see these hatchings that were just put in random places. I think for the cheap. I mean, but it just there's a lot of hatching in his work. And here you know hatch. So I always just now when you look at how people draw, you just hardly ever see that hatching. It looks so different. And when I look at it, I'm always like, why those marks? But, you know, they just put them anywhere. And it just, I don't know. So, but you can see back then, David Cockrum here, going back to the original, how it, you know, these are supposed to be for the cheekbones. But, I mean, it's just bold black. I mean, you just don't really see that anymore anyway. So we're back then to what the normality of the issue without the supplemental material. So there you had remained the girl growing into a woman, all memories of your past life fading with the passage of the years, content in your solitude, until Charles Xavier had come to lead the goddess from her desert. An ocean away, that self-same Professor Xavier stirs. And so Professor X is kind of receiving storms from all the way from Ireland. And he's like, what? I thought I heard someone call my name, but so faint, far away. And then he's like, it's storm, images flooding my senses through the telepathic rapport I share with my students. I can feel her pain and fear, and dominating her every thought is the face of Kane Marco. Scott, it's imperative I speak with you out in the corridor. And he's like, sure, I'll be right with you. So, but in the meantime, this is a perfect opportunity to introduce my roommate, Charles Xavier. Meet Misty Knight. So, Misty Knight, of course, is from Power Man and Iron Fist, who Chris Claremont was also writing. And so, my pleasure, Scott, if you please. Every second is vital. And so, well, I'm sorry for that, Misty. I've never seen the professor so brusque and rude before. That's okay. It's you I'm worried about. Something's been eating you up inside ever since that space flight. What is it, Jean? I'd like to help. I know. So tell me, Misty. And you can see all of a sudden, how would you feel if you died, then brought yourself back to life? So Professor X tells Cyclops the X-Men have been ambushed by Juggernaut and that he needs to leave for Ireland immediately. And Cyclops is not having it. He's like, nope, not this time. I'm staying at the hospital till Jean is out of danger. And of course, We're seeing early on, Chris Claremont really showed a lot of humanity in the X-Men. Professor X here snaps back at Cyclops, and he's like, "What? You're putting the life of one woman instead of one person. But hey, it's the 70s, people. Ahead of those of your fellow X-Men." And he says he is because she, that woman, is the most important thing in his life. And he said there's nothing he can do to help the X-Men anyway. No way he can get there in time to make a difference. So he says the professor that, he said it, and sooner or later the new team was going to have to learn how to fight on its own. And he said, callous as it sounds, that time is now. Of course, look at Xavier lifting his hand like he's going to smack him. "How dare you," he yells. "You ungrateful, unspeakable cur. I took you in. I gave you, Scott." I mean, he is just, he's angry. So a cur is just, it's basically calling him a mongrel. It's an aggressive dog, essentially. Kind of like a son of a bitch, perhaps. They couldn't say that, so they would say cur. And suddenly, Cyclops says, "What is it, Professor?" And Xavier turns around and he says, "No, not my mind, not again. The face in the mirror. It's a face in my dream, but this time Cyclops can see it as well." And so we are going to now, this would be a new page. So this was not in the original. And Professor X is basically saying, "Who are you? Why do you torment me?" We all know who she is, or at least if you've been reading the X-Men. If not, that's okay. We'll get to it. "Why don't you leave me alone?" he screams. "What do you want of me?" And Cyclops is like, "What happened?" And Moira McTaggart shows up. She's like, "Out of the way, boy." And he says he had some kind of seizure. And he says he's never seen like that before. And Moira says, "I have. That's why he summoned me." And Cyclops says, "It doesn't matter what the professor told us. You're not a housekeeper." And Moira says, "Who I am doesn't matter. And that it's the professor who's important. And that she's going to protect her. The dream is gone." And Xavier's like so close he could see the face. And he asks Moira what's happening. And Moira basically says that either his mind is unbalanced or he's slipping into madness. Or basically the consciousness, he is interfacing with them. And she says she doesn't know which one is worse. So, we're back now. In the original X-Men, it cut from that where he saw her in the mirror to here. So, Chris Claremont, like I said, is adding supplemental material to kind of help the story. And the Juggernaut is still trying to get Nightcrawler, and Storm is still basically useless. And so Nightcrawler's doing all he can. So are all the X-Men. And so he's going to try to take the high ground. Juggernaut just dismisses Wolverine. Good thing he's got that adamantium, because he slapped him so hard his face or his head would have left, but luckily he's got that adamantium. So here comes Nightcrawler, and he grabs a lantern of some kind and throws it in Juggernaut's face. And so Juggernaut says that hurt. So and Black Tom tells, I tell you the names, Black Tom. He tells Juggernaut that he'll make sure Nightcrawler pays for that, and hits him from behind with his like power stick thing, and he lands. Now, this was a thing from back then. Whenever Nightcrawler was in shadow, he would blend in. The thing about it is, like, how does his uniform also blend in? That's the part where you kind of go, what? But it's comic books. I always say it's comic books, don't overthink it. But then I start to overthink it. Like, how does the costume also become, blend? But, and so there are these little elves that live in the castle and grab Nightcrawler. And so Banshee still fighting with Black Tom. And Black Tom says, Sean, I'm ashamed of you. Where's the Banshees of old, the Interpol agent who sent me to prison for life? For life? Then what's he there? And he's like, Banshee's like, what are you talking about? And he says, you've asked me no questions, cousin, not even the obvious one. Such as who freed me and the Juggernaut from prison, and who gave us the money and knowledge to take this castle and turn it into a death trap. And he hits him in his stomach with that walking stick and says, in short, who paid us to kill the X-Men? Such a pity you'll die without ever knowing. So Black Tom continues as he hits him in the head. I'll admit that your unexpected arrival forced us to move somewhat ahead of schedule, but the end result's the same. Our vengeance made that much sweeter by the fact that we're making a tidy profit at the same time. And the Juggernaut says, true enough, but my vengeance won't be complete until my hated stepbrother, Charles Xavier, lies dead at my feet. That will never be, monster. Someone says off panel, and it was Colossus. This is a great panel. Just look at that. Bawam! By the sound effect here. Because to get to, and then something in Russian, Xavier, you must first defeat Colossus, and I will not be beaten. Oh my goodness, what a great panel. Get up, Juggernaut, and I will knock you down again. And so, Juggernaut still dispatches Colossus. You still haven't got the message, have you, Colossus? I'm a Juggernaut. Flatten me 100 times, and I'll face you the 101st as strong and fresh as ever. And Colossus is like, words will not defeat me. And he does some kind of acrobatic move, which Frank Miller would be proud of that. And they continue to fight, and the wall, it collapses. And of course, Storm's like, oh, I can't. And so Juggernaut says, you got guts, kid. I'll give that to you. But only one thing matters when you're fighting the Juggernaut, and that's power. And Storm's like, I failed you all. I must make a supreme effort, conquer my fear. And Storm's like, you speak of power, Juggernaut. Behold, as Storm teaches you the meaning of the word. And Juggernaut's like, I'm waiting, lady. But if that's your best shot, I better make this short and sweet. And he's hurling her force bolt back at her. She's too weak to resist. I don't know if it works that way, but hey, whatever. Chris Claremont probably didn't want to have her punched. And so they're beating Black Tom. The only one left who matters is Xavier, and I know how to get him. He's got a constant telepathic rapport with his students. If they're hurt, he feels it. Hurt them bad enough, and Charles Xavier will walk into our trap as a meek and defenseless as a lamb to the slaughter. Next issue, The Fall of the Tower. But because this is classic X-Men, there is a backup story, and it's called Tag Sucker. Now, the lettering is by Tom Orzechowski, my top 3 favorite letterer. John Bolton, he's a Brit, is performing the art here. So, I'm Wolverine, loner by nature, hunter by trade. But I've joined the X-Men now, and since New York is their home turf, I've come to make it my own. Don't much like cities. Too big, too crowded, too flamin' noisy. I prefer wild country. Been at it the better part of a week, wandering Manhattan and the outer boroughs, sizing up the city and its peoples. This is Times Square's, called the flashy trash heart of the Big Apple. Some apple, some heart. So, again, Wolverine now here kind of, I love how they kind of give you the all of Times Square in just one splash. I'm minding my own business, not expecting trouble. He's gonna light up a cigarette, and suddenly, first mistake. Tom Orzechowski, great letterer, absolutely great. Every sense kicks into combat mode. I do a fast 360, scoping every bod around me. Nothing. And here, tag, sucker, you're it. Behind me, nothing. I heard that laugh. The guy was close enough to touch. I was alert. Why didn't my senses warn me? What the blazes is going on? Too open here. Too many people. Without a scent to lock in. My guy could be any one of them. Might even be part of a team. Creep wants to play. I'll oblige him with a game. And Wolverine takes off. He'll never forget. So he jumps on a car to go up the fire escape. These moves are second nature. Not so long ago, I used to be a secret agent. Did most of my work in Siberia and in the Western Pacific. I was the best. Haven't lost my touch as he climbs up. I'm not trying to lose any pursuit. I want him after me. But on my terms. The idea is to take this scrap somewhere we can finish it in private, but my trail stays clear. Nobody follows. And so now he's in Chelsea. Old rough edge neighborhood, turning young and fancy as the gentry move in. Buildings are being rehabbed all over. Stores that have been here generations are changing hands, selling out, turning trendy boozer as old and downscale, and comfortably friendly. This won't last much longer. Too bad. Ain't crowded. Nobody's a threat. So, Wolverine walking in. I love him out of uniform. Find a corner, sit back with the walls facing the room, with a view of all the exits, clear field of action, handy way out if I need it. Old habits, trust no one, take no chances. So you can see Wolverine's about to sit down and he's looking. That's how you survive. And the guy here says, looking for trouble, fella? He says, nope, just being careful. And the guy's like, pays to be careful. Pays more to be considerate. If you can, my friend, take it outside, meaning like a fight, like if he's gonna fight. Doesn't want him to fight in here. I make the man nervous. I make everyone nervous. Ain't like normal folks. Word for my kind is mutant. Homo sapiens superiors. Next step, I'm told, in humanity's evolution. Big flamin' deal. In my case, that means my physical senses are unimaginably keen. I live by them. Others die because of what they tell me. What I see, what I hear, what I smell, what I can touch, taste, and feel, my senses and my instincts, they define my reality. Pretty cool. I never stop looking at everyone, everything. I haven't lost my challenger. He's outside, waiting, watching, just like me. He'll make his move in his own good time. I finished my whiskey. In a while, I'll have another. And so this woman kind of looks at Logan. Another aspect of my power is a healing factor. My body repairs itself, counters any poison, disease, wounds, makes me real hard to kill. So you can see here, and you can see the smile. In the window, I saw a smile. It's him. He takes off. And the lady's like, hey, this ain't no football field, fella. And Wolverine is outside. And he's like, gone again, but where? How? So fast? Ain't possible for a body to cover his scent so completely. Unless he doesn't exist. My head's playing games, or somebody with mental powers or some gizmo playing games with me. Bedrock at the base of my soul turns suddenly to ice, and that begins to crack. So the lady comes out and she's like, I thought you had some class, cowboy. But you're better off home on the range romancing the buffalo. Wolverine's like, she's part right. This ain't home, probably won't ever be. Too many flamin' rules choking my soul like these buildings eat up the sky. I want to run, to howl, to hunt. And the guy's like, I warned you, fella. You said take it outside, just being neighborly. Yeah, right. I run a clean place. No trouble, no grief. Go somewhere else. And suddenly there's a scream. And Wolverine's like, the girl. I know what we'll find. I've heard that kind of scream before. And the guy's like, oh my lord, Francie. Laughter, whispering in the wind, telling me I'm next. Wolverine's kind of looking behind him. I love this panel because it's looking up from the body. Good stuff. Again, the animal urges to be free. Instinct, not thought. Sorry. Make tracks, find shelters, go to the ground. This time I don't resist. Beneath the gratings, a ladder. Emergency exit from the subway. None of the growing crowd notices me slip away. There's a maintenance walkway running along the tunnel. I can use that to reach the next station. And so he waits for the subway and he jumps on and loses his hat. Easier to take the train. I don't stop moving from subway to street and back again. Always looking over my shoulder. Always seeing nothing. Gripped by feelings too strong to be denied. Claremont Silver boasts. I'm playing this wrong. I know, letting my hunter call the shots, dancing to his tune, but I can't help myself. My combat skills, knowing how to fight, and when and where. They're all things I've learned, as opposed to what I know deep in my bones. They bind me to the world that built this city and made me less than my birthright. That laugh, the way the woman was killed, this whole game of tag, strikes a chord in my memory, one I wish I could forget, and sends a shrill of pure terror through my heart. And here's Wolverine, just waiting. At Battery Park, with my back to the sea, I don my colors, my Wolverine costumes, to make my stand. I show my claws, adamantium, the strongest metal known, bionically implanted into my forearms, my skeleton laced with the same stuff, making it virtually unbreakable, and me, some high-tech sci-fi piece of work. Wolverine, Weapon X, X-Men, hunter become the hunted, killer about to be killed. I was trained by the best to be the best. My knowledge and skills honed by a lifetime's experience, but I ignore all that. I cast my rationality away and let the animal loose. I trust my senses, and we can see whose hands these are. They play me false, and suddenly grabs, and he's like, "Tag again, sucker! You're it. You're out." And so you can see that Sabretooth, who drew blood, love this. We keep his face hidden, but you can see here his smile. Expected better, boy, but then you were always a disappointment. An hour or so later, the Staten Island ferry cruises placidly toward its berth at St. George. Too late, the pieces had already fallen into place. Sabretooth. Old hates never dies. Ours won't tonight. Though he did his best. He tore out my throat. Should have suffocated, bled to death, drowned. As Wolverine's getting into the boat. But the body heals faster when it has to. I'm a mess, but I'll survive. Like always, we fought his way on his terms. I got lucky. He underestimated my healing factor. He won't make that mistake again. The Berserker, the Wolverine in me, that's no match for him. Only the man has a prayer. To survive, I have to change to accept what I am and grow from it. I'm not sure I want to. I'm not sure I can. Next, Hope. And so, here is the back cover by John Bolton. So we are looking at Classic X-Men number 11 from 1987. Now, this cover is not by the great Arthur Adams. He was too busy doing the X-Men Annual that year. I think it was X-Men Annual 10, the one with the X-Babies. And so, Bob Layton filled in, and he is the cover artist. Bob Layton, of course, is very famous for his Iron Man run. He had 2 runs at Iron Man. So, he ended up doing the cover. Not bad. It is actually similar to the original cover, which was for X-Men 103 by Dave Cockrum. So we see here, very nice. So you can see that Bob Layton essentially did an homage cover. The frontispiece, though, is done by Mike Mignola. So look at this amazing image of Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernaut. Look at this. His signature was a little different back then. I actually liked that signature, but it's evolved just like him. So, look at this. I have posted in my both Instagram and Twitter. I've posted a drawing I did of Juggernaut because I was inspired by these last couple of issues. So feel free to check that out if you would like. So, we're going to keep going here. Real quick, sorry, let me go back. Chris Claremont is the writer for everything. It does not look like there is any supplemental, but John Bolton is the only thing. Normally, we've got, with Chris Claremont adding some stuff, but like I said, the X-Men Annual perhaps took some time, so here we go. All right, we're going to pick up where we left off last week. Last week. In the last issue here. So, we're in Ireland. By the way, I have a playlist I started covering with Giant Size X-Men number 1. I am using Classic X-Men for a while because of the supplemental material. So, check that out. I think the supplemental material tends to add a little bit more exposition. So, all right. Did you hear, Donald? The castle has gone all quiet. Aye, the battle is over with Black Tom, Cassidy, and Juggernaut, the victors. And you can see that these little elves are taking Nightcrawler. And as for Banshee and his fellow X-Men, they're all as good as dead. Not all, Padriac. We managed to save this one called Nightcrawler. Now hush up and let's get this boyo to safety while we've still got the chance. So, it does look like we do have a supplement page, but it does look like this supplement was drawn by Dave Cockrum here. So we basically have a recap of what happened in the previous issue. So I won't read all that. And so, as you can see, Juggernaut managed to defeat the new X-Men all by himself. This is a great panel here. So, Donald, the fella's waking up. What'll we do? Hold on to him, you silly nit, and keep him quiet. If he starts yelling, we're lost. But that's easier said than done. Watch out, he's free. Hold on, Wolverine, out. And then he's like, Wolverine, where are you? Ack, where am I? I must be dreaming. What happened to the battle? And who are these people? You're all little, and your ears are pointed like mine. I am dreaming because that would mean you're... No, that's impossible. So, he believes that a world like someone like him can exist, but no elves, right? So, leprechauns, fantastique. I'm talking to real. Oh, wait, until I tell my friends. Main God, my friends, the battle, what happened to them? So, they've been captured, Nightcrawler, by Black Tom and the Juggernaut. Who? Oh, it's Eamon O'Donnell, my friend. And so, he's gonna basically say, or tell Nightcrawler how everything kind of began. It began about a month ago when Black Tom Cassidy tricked his way back into the castle that once been his home. He brought Juggernaut in with him, and you can guess what happened next. That first night, they took most of the family's prisoners and held their lives hostage against my good behavior. And not just for himself alone either. He took orders from a tall man in red armor and a horned helmet. I tried to get a warning out through a lawyer Flaherty, but he misunderstood, thinking that Tom was after the castle, Banshee's inheritance, never realizing that was what Tom wanted, was Banshee's life, all your lives. So we can see Eric the Red is who's in the background, kind of being covered up. So Nightcrawler says, a man with a Viking-sounding name. I think I know who you mean. But first things first, we need to plan a rescue, my friends. And the little elf says, a moment, Nightcrawler. I've been wondering. When we found ye, part of ye that lay in shadow disappeared. How do you do that? You must be mistaken. I can't do anything like that. Don't tell me, boyo. I saw it. So, matter of fact, your face is always in shadow. That I knew, but this other thing... It shouldn't be too hard to check, and so you can see he does check it. Now, keep in mind that it shouldn't work that way, and I know it's comics, let's not overthink it, but he's wearing a costume. The costume can't disappear. Like, he'd have to be naked, but guess we can't do that, so we will just go with it. So, that's incredible. My hand, it was invisible. So part of his power is he's able to blend in the shadows. So, all right. This guy says, Eamon O'Donnell, come quickly. Black Tom has the X-Men in his laboratory. He's planning to torture them. So, and so like other parts, we have new parts mixed in with older parts. So, a man with a Viking-sounding name, Eric the Red. But who is he and why does he wish the X-Men dead? We'll get to that. Eamon O'Donnell, come quickly. So, that part was already covered here. All right. Follow me, Nightcrawler. I'll have you there in no time. I only pray we're not too late. You're not, O'Donnell, for all the good that does. Oh, my Lord Iman, my friends. I know, lad, I feel the same way. And so here are the X-Men. So here they're whispering here. Because my friends, the Leprechaun families, are being held in the dungeons behind this lab. Calm yourself. Then this other part, as Black Tom says. Calm yourself, Juggernaut. What does it matter that Nightcrawler has escaped? Alone, he can do us no harm, and the other X-Men's powers are neutralized. They're helpless. Once I've activated my neuronic tangler glove, we can begin our work here in earnest. Look at Wolverine. We don't need your fancy glove, Tom. If you want my stepbrother's people hurt, the Juggernaut has power to do that and more. No, Kane, this is one instance where brute force isn't the answer. You see, my friend, there's a limit to the amount of physical force a body can stand. Your way would probably kill the X-Men long before they've served their purpose. But my way ravages the mind, yet leaves the body undamaged. Exquisite, never-ending agony. Xavier will do anything to spare his peoples that kind of pain. He'll even let us kill him. And so, in New York City at the hospital, Storm, she's in agony, resisting the pain, but I cannot. My control over my mental powers, a shadow of its former self, can't mute my rapport with the X-Men. Moira, get Cyclops quickly. And so, he calls out for Moira again, but comes that alien. We'll find out who that alien is later. Dear heaven, get out of my mind, you Fanta. Why do you keep tormenting me? Leave me alone. And then Moira's like, Charlie, it's Moira. Calm yourself. And so he tells her again, and he believes he's going crazy. And so back at the castle. Again, new stuff. It just throws me off because Dave Cockrum did the new stuff himself. But we just kind of have to go by the style. His style, of course, has changed. So it's the professor they want. That gives me an idea. If it doesn't work, though, Eamon, send my body to Xavier's school for gifted youngsters. And so Nightcrawler teleports. Now, remember, he has that little image inducer, and you can see it right here. What's that stink? Smells like fire and brimstone. Tom, he's here. Xavier's here. I understand you wish to see me, Juggernaut. There was no need to threaten my students. All you had to do was ask. You've got it wrong, my dearly hated stepbrother, because all Tom and I want from you is your life. I see, and you can see Xavier jumps out of the way. I hope you'll excuse me if I don't let you take it. Ah, Kane, you must be getting slow in your old age. Is that why you needed someone to help you ambush the X-Men this time? And Juggernaut's like, you're laughing at me. Of course, dear brother, there's so much of you to laugh at. And Juggernaut's like, shut up. And, of course, Black Tom recognizes what's going on. Kane, there's something wrong here. I thought you said Xavier was a cripple. That's enough out of you. And he hits Black Tom. Consider this a partial payment for what you did to Nightcrawler. You've such an affection for the Goblin, Xavier. I'll be glad to blast you the same way I did with him. And suddenly he's sticking to the wall. And so Juggernaut then, of course, know that it's not Xavier. And that it's Nightcrawler. And he hits so hard it shatters. And, of course, Storm is able to see the sky. Because she's claustrophobic. So, a moment. That's all it takes. As the traumatic claustrophobia that held Storm prisoner far more effectively than any of Black Tom's shackles falls away. The witch, what's she doing? And so she uses the Storm to free the X-Men. Free, gods of the earth and air be praised. I am free. Anything you say, lady, but how about putting Petey and me down, huh? And so she drops them. It's funny how his costume will eventually evolve, but with those pointy. And so they're glad that she's finally herself. So back at what's left of Black Tom's lab, the walls have indeed come tumbling down. And so one of the elves here says, that sudden wind, it smashed everything. I think we've got a way out. And so Black Tom is yelling at the Juggernaut, you and your bloody temper, if you hadn't cut loose like at that wall like that. I know, Tom, I'm sorry, but we still have Banshee. And they're like, let's go. And not a peep a lot of you. So they're going to try and get Nightcrawler again. So outside, Colossus is trying to free Wolverine. He's like, it's no use. They are made of a metal even I cannot break. And Storm says, may I help you, gentlemen? And Wolverine says, look, lady, if Colossus can't break it, what do you think you can do? And suddenly she touches and frees. Part of it is her time as a thief, which we will eventually get to her origin. We've seen parts of her origin, but we're going to get a full origin of her in much later issues after John Byrne arrives. In my time, Wolverine, I was the best lockpick in Cairo, but we'll talk of that later after we've rescued our friends. So here comes Black Tom and the Juggernaut. All right, Keen, we've arrived through that door, and we'll be on the castle's battlements. Why'd you bring me up here, Tom? You planning to throw him off? If it comes to that. But first, we're going to try talking. Hear me, X-Men. We have Banshee up here with us. If you want him alive, you'll come up and get him. You have 5 minutes, my friends, till we start sending him down to you, a piece at a time. And Storm says, it's a trap. And Wolverine's like, no kidding, lady. But so long as they got the Irish prisoner, they're holding all the aces. What about Nightcrawler? We cannot just stand here and watch. So, up goes Storm. Very well, then. If Black Tom wishes us to fight for Banshee's freedom, then fight we shall, as only the X-Men can. And Wolverine. Again, this is early on. We haven't quite flushed out the identities of who Wolverine is and you know, the relationships. So, if it seems out of character for what you are familiar with as Wolverine, it's okay. It's just Chris Claremont trying to still figure out how to best get Wolverine. You dumb broad, come back here. You go charging up there alone, you'll get yourself killed, yells Wolverine. Oh, for crying out loud, lady. How are we supposed to follow you, huh? And Colossus' hand from behind. Wolverine, I told you to never call Storm a broad again, and I meant it. Happy landing, Stuverish. And you can see Wolverine yelling, hey! So, very cool. And so, Colossus is going to go the hard way. It's a pity, though, that there's no one left to throw me. I'm afraid I'll have to climb this wall the hard way. And so Juggernaut's like, hard way is right, you steel-skinned chump, because climbing that wall makes that wall like that makes you a sitting duck. A blind man couldn't miss. But didn't he just throw Wolverine and Storm up? And I thought Storm was already up there. So, all right. So here's Storm. I haven't read these in forever. So as I'm going over these comics with you, I'm looking at them for the first time in years. And so Black Tom says, you deal with our armored comrade Kane. Storm is mine. I could blast ye with my own mutant power, but why exert myself when I've machines to do it for me? And so Storm is like, energy blasters built into the castle's rooftops. Right. Oh, 70s comics. But where did they come from? Banshee mentioned nothing of such weaponry, and their appearance and power are unlike any I've ever seen. But if Black Tom wishes to a test of strength, The mistress of winds shall not be found wanting. As the battle begins, the sky is clear with hardly a cloud to mask the stars. That quickly changes as Storm's efforts to warp weather patterns for miles around. Do your worst, Bimbo. I'll laugh it off. Colossus is history. And before tonight's done, it'll be your turn. And so, it's just funny to see these. These issues of X-Men are not my favorite. I think Chris Claremont is still finding his footing. We know that he's going to create some of the greatest X-Men stories, or period, stories of any kind coming up. But, sometimes on your way up, sometimes you do stumble a little bit. And I do think that these issues after the creation of the Phoenix was him stumbling down, because it just doesn't make sense, but it's okay. We'll continue. So Storm says, Goddess, the plasma beams came closer with every shot. If not for my hours of training in the danger room, these beams would have burned me to a crisp. And you can see Juggernaut grabbing that rock. What does it take to kill you, mutants? Far more than even you are capable of, murderer. As Peter deflects the rocks that Juggernaut throws at him. And Storm is like, Peter's in more trouble than he will admit, but I dare not stop to aid him until these blasters are silenced. And she uses her lightning powers to render one of them. A few minutes ago, this had been a calm, clear night, with hardly a cloud to mask the stars, but that has changed, as a fury of Storm's attacks twist weather patterns for miles around, creating an instant the worst Atlantic gale in living memory. And so Wolverine's like, Colossus, you stupid. You threw me so flaming hard, I landed on the wrong side of the flaming castle. How do you expect me to get on the fight, for crying out loud? And this leprechaun says, I can help you, Mr. Logan, huh? Who the blazes are you, bub, and how do you know my name? I'm called Patriarch, mate, and we little people know a lot of things. No way, bub, the Wolverine don't believe in leprechauns. Suit yourself. Maybe leprechauns don't believe in talking Wolverines either. Now, you coming with me or not? So, again, I just think that this issue is so silly, but it's okay, But it is a bit silly when you think of the X-Men and what they've done. But to run, you got to learn how to crawl, and I think that's what's happening. Claremont's just kind of adjusting and trying to figure out these characters. So Juggernaut's like, Mister, and Black Tom's like, she's fast, but the battle computers are beginning to compensate. They'll soon have her pinned in a crossfire, and that will be the end of it. And Banshee thinks, you'd crow a different tune if I were loose, cousin, but I'm not. I have to stand and watch you as you murder my friends. And he's like, oh. And of course, Nightcrawler's behind him and snaps him. Thank your leprechaun friends for showing me the way up here. Oh, we've been spotted. Tom, that blue goblin's freed Banshee. Stop him, came before. Too late, cousin. I'm loose of your sonic gag, and as well, and you'll not make a prisoner of me again. Banshee, the Juggernaut. Not to worry, Nightcrawler. Juggernaut can't charge us with no floor underneath him, as he screams this. It's funny as he's talking and screaming at the same time. Curse your sonic scream, Banshee. You're a fool if you think a fall can stop me. All you've done is put off your desk for the time it takes me to climb the stairs. And here are the X-Men. Then you will not climb these stairs, Juggernaut. You called it Colossus. Sides, Juggy. You owe us a rematch. And Juggernaut says, what makes you think this will end differently than our first battle? You've just signed your death warrants, X-Men. Banshee's going after Black Tom. And Black Tom thinks that's the spirit, Sean Cassidy. Play the hero and rush Blither into my trap. And so he went to go get that axe, but he missed him. No, you don't, cousin. I may be old, but I'm not stupid. And now I've got I've got a weapon of my own. And so the two of them do go on a fight with. It's okay. All right, we continue. Even when I read these issues as a kid, I thought they were silly. So in 1987, let's see, 74. So I was 13 years old. And I don't know. I don't know. I read these and I'm like, I knew then they weren't. I didn't like them. So, but I liked all the issues kind of leading up to it. So, and of course I had already picked up, there were already 10 years worth of X-Men. So I knew that the stories were better. During this time, so we were getting ready for Fall of the Mutants on the regular X-Men. So Fall of the Mutants was starting to happen. So I was already, I knew what the X-Men were. So I was able to kind of put up with it. But I don't know whether you will think that these are good. This particular story with going into the castle is a good story or not. That's up to you. Art is subjective. Some people may think this is a great story. I thought it was rather silly, but that's just me. Anyway, so Black Tom is gonna get him, but Banshee kicks him out and pushes him off. And Juggernaut's like, Tom, out of my way, you costume clown. Look out. He's like, hold on, Tom, I'm coming. He was my only friend I ever had, X-Men. And so help me, if you've killed him, I'll make you pay. And he lands on the water. Storm makes the storm stop. And so up here, for the moment, it seems the battle is over. And all is once more well with the world for the moment. And so we get this epilogue here. You see Magneto here. I will brook no more failures. Is that understood? Princess Nurami is due to reach the Earth in a matter of weeks. Whatever happens after that, she must not contact the X-Men. She will not, my liege. You have my word. I now have an ally worthy of the name of X-Men's oldest, deadliest foe. Xavier and his students will be dead before they realize that they're under attack. And next issue, the gentleman's name is Magneto. Enough said. So, and here's kind of the thing. Why is this battle over? I mean, Juggernaut would, they don't really explain it, but Juggernaut would just climb back up and whatever. But hey, you can't fight the Juggernaut forever, so. All right, so then, of course, this is classic X-Men, so we get a backup story. So this backup story is a kind of Storm solo story. If you could kind of go with that. So it's a bit of a drama piece. He accomplishes a lot in 8 pages, so it's pretty cool. John Bolton, of course, is the artist of the backup part. John Bolton is a Brit, so I had never heard of John Bolton or even seen his art until Classic X-Men, and then I saw him after. He's a masterful master of the pen and ink, and able to compose some really good stories. So here we go. There's a lot of it's funny that they're gonna say words, because this is chock full of a lot of words. So I'm gonna just kind of go with it and hopefully get this done within 10 minutes or so. So here we go. Words, stock and trade. What made my world go round? Where'd they go? So we have a writer here essentially going through writer's block. Why'd they turn so nasty, get so stale? A week's work. A ream of paper, typewriter, ribbon, inks, cartridge, notepads, cans of Coke, the odd chocolate wrapper, too many cigarettes, all garbage. And so the title of our story, Hope. I stare at the white page, and all I see is a white page. No pictures, no dreams, no joy. And so we got an answering machine. For those of you that don't know that, it's what people had before voicemail. Phil here. Wait for the tone. Leave a message. I'll be back. Promise, promise, chump. This is Reg. I'm tired of talking to your bloody machine, Phil. I know I know what you're going through. I'm your editor, but you got to meet me halfway. I can't cover you forever. You have some sympathy for my position, chum. We're hard up against the deadline. And click, you hear. And of course, he's like, you think I don't know that, as he throws it down. You think I don't bloody care? The rot of his, chummo, I don't. And you can see how frustrated he is. I made a royal mess. Perhaps if I sit long enough, it'll go away. It doesn't, so I do. Once upon a time, I was the cock of the walk. The words came like breathing, second nature. I've lost the words. I'd rather have quit breathing. That was a joke. Why don't I laugh? Once upon a time, it didn't matter where I lived, how bleak or sterile the box. And so, keep in mind here, you gotta look. Woman killer escapes. Police mount nationwide hunt. That's important. Never in comic books, you never show anything unless you're gonna use it. So, because that was only somewhere to park the bod while the old imagination went wandering. I roamed the world and stars, crafted the most daring deeds, wooed the most fabulous ladies. It wasn't reality, it was adventure, till the gradual inexorable, inevitable. Oh my God. It is like Chris Claremont is trying to go through a thesaurus. Inevitable suddenness. It stopped being fun. So, years I've spent at your grindstone, Reg, honing my craft, building my rep. I broke my back for the company. Why can't you be satisfied with that? And it's never that second-rate work that gets grief. Inevitably top-notch stories. The stuff I put my heart into, I'm proudest of, I care most about. Listen to yourself, man. What a whiner. Bleat, sob, sob. You're a grown man, supposedly a professional. How often have you been told nobody forces you to work here, Phil? So why don't I leave? No guts. I'll always be more scared of what I'm giving up than what I might gain. Too bloody comfortable. And he looks up. GPO Tower, the tallest building in London. And so, I'm not going to read all that. So, let's just say he walks in and he's going to basically contemplate suicide. I love how he just goes up into the building. Even in the 80s, they did have security. So, all right, so he's going to jump off. And from up here it says, you should not stand so near the edge. You might fall. He's like, ooh, what in heaven's name? Beautiful panel here. I am Storm. And so, you're no real. You can fly. Of all the bloody luck, why are you angry? My business. Look, you don't understand. Why should you even care? You don't know me. And so, your face is familiar, she says. And he's like, yours is unforgettable. Have we met? I'm Phil Halloran. And she's like, the writer? Love how John Bolton just gives you the nose. I do that on my drawing. So if you take a look at how plainly, that's how I do a woman's nose. I essentially decided that I would take things from him, and it inspired me so much. To this day, when I do women, I do the nose like that. I only recently discovered your work. I enjoy it very much. I'm happy to meet you. Let's stay strangers. Be modern. Be sensible. Go our separate ways. and leave it at that, okay? So, forgive me. I was alone. I saw you alone. I sensed the pain. I thought of help. And he's like, I'm flattered, but there's no need. And so, um, again, there's so many words. Um, so, which is so separate from last issue, because the last issue, there was hardly any words, but, and so Storm shows him the power, her power, and she takes him on a flight. Beautiful panel. I just adore this, showing him all uncomfortable and how I just beautiful panel here. Absolutely riveting. John Bolton, you can see how excited he is. John Bolton is such a dynamic penciler. He draws the most beautiful women, and look at that. And he gets his own little rain cloud and all that kind of stuff. So, um, basically, she puts him down. Now, you can see someone's coming, and he's asking Storm a question, but Storm is not answering. So, of course, we see this security guard here who has knocked her down. So basically, the killer says, "Hey, you wanted to jump? Go right ahead. My business is with the lady." And he's like, "You're the killer, the one the police are after." And he's like, "Right, you are." So he's off to go. Sees it, and then he's feels like he's a coward and all that kind of stuff. So you can see him there, kind of contemplating to jump again. Just so many words. I try to read along with you, but sometimes it's just too many. So he decides he's gonna go fight for Storm, and the two fight. She wakes up and uses her electricity, kind of like to hit the killer with a lightning bolt of some kind, and uses her power to throw him against the wall. And so he goes to Storm and says, "You saved me." And she's like, "You provide me opportunity. Rest. Try not to talk. You may be concussed. I'll tie up our prisoner, then ring the police and ambulance. And afterwards," and so she tries to hold, but she doesn't want him to kill himself. He goes, "It's my life, Storm, to do as you please. Then, my friend, with all my heart, I beg you, do not throw it away. Question always been, will I be doing that by dying or staying alive?" And she says, "While you live, you hope. And and with hope, there's always the possibilities." And he's like, "Maybe and maybe not. The choice is mine." So, Fire at Night will be the second part. I don't know what you thought of it, but all that, and the guy's still, we don't know whether or not he decides to kill himself or not. It just, but with Chris Claremont, he's always had that whole thing of you have the right to choose, and it's a trope of his, and you see that in several of his stories. So, one last thing is that there is a backup cover, and you can see this great cover by John Bolton. So John Bolton always provided a backup cover to the feature. Love the inking work. I just adore this. So he's an incredible artist. There just isn't too much comic book work from him, but what he has done is absolutely amazing. So